Chapter 934, Founder of the Bloodsword Sect. A sliver of determination appeared in the Blood Demon Emperor's eyes. Humph, who do you think I am? I'll make you pay a price as well for wanting to wipe me out. Why don't you break free first if you want me to pay a price as well? Because right now, you can't harm me at all, Jian Chen's cold voice rang out. His soul was currently protected by the Saint artifact, and this protection could not be destroyed by anything below Saint Emperor. He did not believe the Blood Demon Emperor in his current state had that power. Humph, I'll break through your defense right now. The Blood Demon Emperor's soul began to condense rapidly again, turning into a thumb-sized orb from his dwarf form. The orb was completely blood-red and radiated with a demonic crimson light. It showed vague signs of suppressing the golden light from the Saint artifact. With half my soul as tribute, I condense the Empyrean Demon Orb and request the Empyrean Demon Orb to break through this tower. The Blood Demon Emperor's voice resounded from the orb. Abruptly, his soul weakened at a rapid rate while the orb's light increased. It actually broke free from the golden light's binding and enveloped Jian Chen's sea of consciousness. Empyrean Demon Orb, it's actually the Empyrean Demon Orb. Why would the Empyrean Demon Monarch's Empyrean Demon Orb be here? Suddenly, the sword spirits' voices rang out in the sea of consciousness. They were filled with surprise. Soon after, two dazzling lights, one azure and one purple, rose from the depths of the sea of consciousness and quickly expanded completely. The expansion of the blood-red light from the Empyrean Demon Orb came to a halt with the appearance of the two different colored light. The lights from the sword spirits quickly filled up Jian Chen's entire sea of consciousness, even surrounding the blood-red light from the Empyrean Demon Orb. Afterward, it quickly faded, causing Jian Chen's sea of consciousness to become blurry. It turned into a chaotic mess with nothing to be seen. The only thing visible was a hazy gray. Empyrean Demon Orb, you're trying to harm our master. Even the Empyrean Demon Monarch didn't have that courage, let alone you. If you're smart, you better piss off quickly. Don't make us attack you. Ziying's voice resounded from everywhere. An image of the stars suddenly appeared in the chaotic space. Within this image, countless people battled fiercely in outer space. It was so intense that worlds fell and the void shattered with countless planets destroyed to their battle. Corpses that radiated with powerful auras floated in outer space, while golden blood filled the entire area. Every single drop contained an unimaginably powerful energy, able to kill off Saint Emperors without any difficulties at all. Two giant swords stood among the crowded battleground. They were both thousands of meters long and shone with purple and azure lights. Wherever they passed by, the surroundings would become littered with body pieces. Countless people had died to the two swords. The power of the swords was enough to shake the heavens and devastate whole worlds. Everything presented in the image was real. It was a battle the sword spirits had experienced in the past, which had been projected through their abilities. The Empyrean Demon Orb began to shake violently, as if it was quaking in fear. Its red light was quickly retracted, completely hidden within it in the blink of an eye. It could not help but descend slightly in the air as if it was submitting itself. It did not dare to challenge the sword spirits at all. No, no, no. This can't be real. This can't be real, it's fake, it's fake. This is all fake, the Blood Demon Emperor shrieked in fright from within the Empyrean Demon Orb. His voice was filled with terror. The sword spirits had just projected matters that had happened in their past, involuntarily sucking the Blood Demon Emperor into it. Everything seemed to have unfolded right before him. Not only could he feel just how terrifying these people were, he could sense just how horrifyingly powerful each casual strike was. Every single person in the image had reached far beyond the realms of Saint Emperor. Even when he was at his peak, he would not have been able to block even a casual attack from anyone. Just a droplet of their blood would be enough to wipe out his soul. The strength of these people had completely exceeded the Blood Demon Emperor's understandings and reckoning. Terror immediately began to overwhelm his mind. I don't believe it. I refuse to believe that it's real. It's all fake. Shrieks from the Blood Demon Emperor constantly rang out from the Empyrean Demon Orb. He had expended thousands of years, cultivating painstakingly to reach Saint Emperor. He was one of the few great experts in the sea realm, and even the three halls feared him. He was glorious. Yet right now, he had discovered just how puny all the power he had obtained in those thousands of years was. It overwhelmed him greatly when he found out just how insignificant it was. He refused to accept it. Half his soul is already consumed. Master, why don't you quickly wipe it out? Zi Ying's voice rang out. Jian Shen immediately condensed a sword without any hesitation and shot it mercilessly toward the Empyrean demon orb. Jian Chen's sword struck the Empyrean demon orb accurately, causing it to tremble gently. Immediately, a chilling shriek rang out. It was from the Blood Demon Emperor. The Blood Demon Emperor's soul was now only half as powerful as it was before, so it was unable to resist Jian Chen's attack at all. Empyrean demon orb, take me out of here quickly. The Blood Demon Emperor's voice was filled with panic. He could feel that he was rapidly approaching death. However, the Empyrean demon orb remained in the air, completely ignoring his orders. Jian Shen condensed a second sword, striking the Empyrean demon orb viciously. The Blood Demon Emperor howled out once again. The Empyrean demon orb was not protecting him at all, so his soul had become extremely weak. Blood Demon Emperor, I'll send you on your way now. Let me experience the feeling of killing a Saint Emperor. Jian Chen's voice was icy and remorseless. The third sword condensed quickly, before striking the Empyrean demon orb as it whistled through the air. Bang! The Blood Demon Emperor's soul completely collapsed with a soft sound, directly dissipating in Jian Chen's sea of consciousness. Fragments of his memories floated out, allowing Jian Chen to view parts of his past very clearly as it was in his sea of consciousness. Once upon a time, the Blood Demon Emperor was a slightly talented cultivator in the sea realm. Through his fortunes, he was chosen by the Empyrean demon orb, which fused with his soul and bestowed him with a cultivation method. From then onward, his life had experienced a drastic change. The Blood Demon Emperor poured his efforts into the cultivation method, reaching Saint Ruler in less than 300 years, Saint King in 800, and Saint Emperor in 2300. He became a legendary figure in the sea realm. Jian Shen even learned from these memory fragments that the Blood Demon Emperor had once gone traveling after he had reached Saint Emperor, founding the Bloodsword Sect on the Tianyuan continent and passing on a modified version of his cultivation method. Afterward, he became the enemy of the three halls, battling with the three emperors of the halls in outer space before dying in the end. However, his soul managed to escape under the protection of the Empyrean demon orb, allowing him to nurse himself after hiding in the Divine Hall. The Octaterra Divine Hall was created by a technique of the Blood Demon Emperor. It was originally named the Blood Demon Divine Hall. The Blood Demon Emperor had fallen into a slumber after he had fled due to his weakness. When he woke up, he discovered that his soul was no longer able to leave the Divine Hall. All he could do was wait inside for the end of his life, for his soul is dissipate naturally. He slept for 10,000 years, surviving thanks to the protection of the Empyrean demon orb. His Divine Hall was then discovered by a 16th star expert 10,000 years ago, and the expert took it for himself. To prevent discovery, the Blood Demon Emperor hid his soul in the depths of the Divine Hall. Many years later, the 16th star expert who had discovered the Blood Demon Divine Hall successfully became an emperor. He renamed the Divine Hall as the Samik Divine Hall, becoming the famed Samlik Emperor. 10,000 years later, the Samik Emperor faced the end of his life. As he meditated while he neared his death, the Blood Demon Emperor that had hidden in the Empyrean demon orb suddenly emerged in a crucial moment, catching him off guard and devouring his soul when he was weak. This extended the Blood Demon Emperor's time. Another 10,000 years passed and the Octaterra Emperor discovered the Samik Divine Hall. He too took it for himself, renaming it as the Octaterra Divine Hall. In the thousands of years he remained in possession of the hall, the Octaterra Emperor never discovered the Blood Demon Emperor. As he too faced the end of his life, he was not willing to see his legacy just end there. As a result, he spent the last few years arranging and modifying the Divine Hall, wanting to leave behind his legacy. The Octaterra Emperor meditated on the 9th floor of the hall as he faced the end of his life. His life was severed and his soul rapidly dissipated, growing extremely weak. However, He never thought he would be faced with the sudden attack of the Blood Demon Emperor's soul in the final moments. The Blood Demon Emperor wanted to devour his soul. He was much stronger than the Psalmic Emperor, so he used everything he had to fight the Blood Demon Emperor in a battle of souls in the end. They turned the 9th floor into a mess, but his soul was still devoured in the end. The Blood Demon Emperor's soul was injured in the battle, but he managed to recover by devouring the Octaterra Emperor's soul. He then used the Octaterra Emperor's handiwork, modifying his setup of the Divine Hall. As a result, the Octaterra Divine Hall that was originally for choosing the Octaterra Emperor's successor was turned into the Blood Demon Emperor's scheme for revival in the end. So that's what happened. I never thought there would be so much history to the Octaterra Divine Hall. This Divine Hall was originally created by the Blood Demon Emperor, but it changed hands twice afterward, which was why its name changed. The souls of the Psalmic and Octaterra Emperor had all been devoured by the Blood Demon Emperor. I never thought that the Bloodsword sect of the Tian Yuan continent was founded by the Blood Demon Emperor several tens of thousands of years ago. Jian Shen was unable to remain composed after he learned all this. His heart churned wildly. In particular, the matters regarding the Bloodsword sect overwhelmed him with disbelief. The Blood Demon Emperor was actually the founder of the Bloodsword sect. Chapter 935, The Empyrean Demon Monarch. The Blood Demon Emperor's soul sure is powerful. His soul's dissipated in my sea of consciousness, so I should be able to absorb it and strengthen my own soul, thought Jian Shen. Without any hesitation, he collected his thoughts and began absorbing the soul. On the 9th floor of the hall, Jian Shen currently sat on the ground with his legs crossed. His eyes were closed. No one knew exactly what had happened. Newbies paced about worriedly beside him. He knew that the Blood Demon Emperor's soul had entered Jian Shen's sea of consciousness, but he could do nothing about the current situation. All he could do was wait on one side. Jian Shen, I really can't help you this time. You have to survive. Nothing must happen to you, Newbies prayed inside. Although he had only agreed to follow Jian Shen for 10 years after being lured out of the Cross Mountains by a corpse of a clansman, the relationship between the two of them had unknowingly undergone great changes after so many years. They were no longer bound by profit and had become close friends. As a result, Newbies felt extremely worried when Jian Shen faced up against such dangers. Thysnich slowly stood up from the ground at this moment. When the Blood Demon Emperor had entered his mind earlier, he had devoured a small portion of his soul, causing great injury to Thysnich. He had only recovered just now. Thysnich stared coldly at Jian Shen as killing intent poured from his eyes without restraint. He said coldly, Octaterra Emperor, I never thought that you'd still be alive, much less think that this entire Divine Hall was just a scheme of yours. You wanted to draw us in from the outside so you could choose a talented body to possess. Thysnich had no idea that it was the Blood Demon Emperor. Even now, he still believed that person who tried to devour his soul was the Octaterra Emperor. Octaterra Emperor, the ruler of the Turtle Clan's soul must have been devoured by you already. It'll still take you some time for you gain full control over the body, so that'll be the perfect time to kill you. Thysnich's face was sunken and his 2 blades were already in hand. Newbies immediately blocked him as soon as he saw that Thysnich wanted to attack Jian Shen. He said coldly, Don't you dare harm Jian Shen when the great Newbies is here. Piss off, you're not my opponent. If I wanted to kill you, it would be as simple as squashing an ant. Thysnich's eyes were filled with disdain. He did not view Newbies as someone worthy. How could the prideful Newbies endure such provocation from Thysnich? A tremendous presence immediately began to radiate from him and his gaze turned into a glare at that very moment. Killing intent began to surge without the slightest intention of restraint. Thysnich, there has never been a good outcome for those who dare to speak to the great Newbies like that. To me, killing you is a piece of cake. If it weren't for the fact that someone had deposited that power in you, I really would be looking down on you, Newbies growled. If it were some other time in some other place, I would definitely have a real battle with you and see just what you can do. Too bad it's not right now. I need to eliminate the ruler of the Turtle Clan or I probably won't be able to leave this place after the Octaterra Emperor achieves full control. Newbies, I originally saved the Emperor's power for fighting over the legacy's inheritance, but now, I have to use it. I'll completely end the lives of you two with a strand now. A terrifying and pure power radiated from Thysnich. It floated out slowly, before gathering at his fingertip. This was an Emperor's power, the power a Saint Emperor deposited within him. At the same time, it was his greatest trump card. Just a strand of it was enough to heavily wound 9th Heavenly Layer Saint Kings. Nubi's complexion became extremely ugly. He could feel its power, it was certain death if he faced up against it. Thysnich stared at the power at his fingertip and said, "It should be some type of great honor for you to die from a strand of Emperor's power. Nubis, Octaterra Emperor, I'll end your lives completely right now." Killing intent flickered wildly in Thysnich's eyes and he was about to shoot the power at them. However, a huge stone slab fell from the ceiling at this very moment, creating a boom as it struck the ground. Thysnich could not help but slow down due to the sudden occurrence. He looked up subconsciously. A huge hole was revealed in the ceiling of the hall that had been covered up by the stone. A gentle azure light glowed from within, but nothing inside could be seen clearly. This is the center of the Octaterra Divine Hall. It's where the control center is. Thysnich could not help but call out. His face was filled with joy. Without any hesitation, he dispersed the power at his fingertip and shot into the hole. The azure light quickly disappeared after Thysnich had entered, and in a moment it had completely vanished with the hole disappearing as well. The ceiling also perfectly returned to how it was before. All that was left was a large stone slab lying on the ground now. I never thought that was actually the center of the Divine Hall. Nubi stared at the ceiling in dejection, while envy burned and flickered in his eyes. Unfortunately, Thysnich had the Emperor's power, which was strong enough to even destroy the Divine Hall. He did not dare to fight over it with him at all. The 9th floor of the hall became peaceful once again with Thysnich's disappearance. Only Jian Chen and Nubis were still there. Currently, Jian Chen devoted all his efforts into absorbing the Blood Demon Emperor's remaining soul fragments. He placed all his attention on his sea of consciousness, completely unaware of the outside world. He was also unaware of the fact that Thysnich had entered the center of the Divine Hall. He would gain control over the hall without much time, allowing him to use the power of the Divine Hall as he wished. Jian Chen had no impression of time inside his sea of consciousness. All he could feel was that his soul was rapidly becoming stronger, while the residual soul fragments were rapidly growing weaker. Devouring one's soul was virtually unheard of. It unheard of on the Tianyuan continent, as it basically would not happen in this world. The reason why the Blood Demon Emperor could devour both the Samic Emperor and the Octaterra Emperor's souls was because he had the Empyrean Demon Orb. Right now, the reason why Jian Chen could devour the Blood Demon Emperor's soul was because he had entered Jian Chen's sea of consciousness by himself. The collapsed soul would disperse into the surroundings with the death of its owner, but as it was in a different environment, Jian Chen's sea of consciousness, it was able to survive and linger. This was the reason why Jian Chen could absorb the soul. Jian Chen would not have been able to do this if it had occurred outside. The soul contained fragments of memories and some comprehensions of the mysteries of the world, so when Jian Chen absorbed the soul, he took these for himself. This allowed his comprehension of the laws of the world to skyrocket. Even though they were only incomplete fragments, they still came from the Blood Demon Emperor. Jian Chen benefited greatly from this, allowing his comprehension to shoot up to the level of a 7th heavenly layer saint rulers from the 1st heavenly layer where he had stagnated. He caught up with the 2nd layer of the chaotic body. Time passed silently. Jian Chen finally absorbed all of the Blood Demon Emperor's soul after some time, allowing his own soul to strengthen quickly. The only pity he felt was that he did not see any memories from the Samic Emperor or the Octaterra Emperor from the fragments of souls. It was as if the Blood Demon Emperor did not learn anything about their memories at all when he had devoured them in the first place. Jian Chen's sea of consciousness had stopped churning long ago. Only the Empyrean demon orb floated in there as it shone with a demonic red light. Jian Chen gathered his attention on the orb. The Empyrean demon orb clearly originated from the same era as the Azulate sword spirits. Jian Chen was extremely curious about its exact details. Zi Ying, Qing Sua, So what is this Empyrean demon orb? Jian Chen asked the sword spirits. Right now, only the sword spirits could provide him with information regarding it, as even the Blood Emperor demon had no idea about its true origins. All he knew was its name, and the fact that it was a special, wondrous item. The sword spirits seemed to hesitate slightly before replying to Jian Chen's question. Master, the Empyrean demon orb was a famed treasure of the Empyrean demon monarch in the past. It was forged from her essence blood, and it's quite a powerful demon artifact. So who's this Empyrean demon monarch? Is she powerful? Why did her treasure end up here? Jian Chen asked. The Empyrean demon monarch was a demon monarch of the demon realm. Not only was she the greatest demoness, she was extremely powerful and stood at the peak of demon monarch, only an inch away from demon emperor. The Empyrean demon arts she created was extraordinary in power as well and was considered one of the high-level cultivation methods in the demon realm at that time. The soul-devouring force cultivation method was infamous, able to kill on contact. It was extremely terrifying. This soul-devouring force is similar to the Chi of Slaughter and the Baleful Een Force Master knows. These two powers are all derived from the soul-devouring force, and are much, much weaker when compared to it. Just that afterward, a great battle occurred where we were. It was extremely intense, leading to the deaths of countless experts in the void. The Empyrean demon monarch also perished in that battle. We too find it extremely odd that her Empyrean demon orb would appear here. Chapter 936, Trapped in the Divine Hall. The Empyrean demon orb may be quite a powerful demon artifact, but it's extremely special, completely different from other artifacts. Once it takes a master, it will fuse with their soul, just like with the Blood Demon Emperor. But he was only able to obtain the cultivation method of the Empyrean demon monarch after fusing with the orb and was unable to use it. Otherwise, he definitely would not have ended up like that, Ziying explained to Jian Chen. Looks like the Empyrean demon orb is much more powerful than the Saint artifact, murmured Jian Chen. Right now, his greatest artifact was the Saint artifact, so he could not help but compare it to that. Master, the true power of the Empyrean demon orb is unimaginable. You can't compare it to the Saint artifact. In the past, just a single strand of soul-devouring force from the orb would be enough to turn the Saint artifact into nothingness. Qing Suo's voice rang out. Jian Chen's heart shivered when he heard that, shocked by the power of the orb. The Saint artifact was so powerful that even Saint Emperors struggled to break it, yet just a single strand of soul-devouring force from the Empyrean demon orb would be enough to reduce the Saint artifact to nothing. Didn't that mean a single strand was enough to easily kill off a Saint Emperor? But unfortunately, the Empyrean demon orb is extremely weak right now. It must have been greatly damaged from the battle last time. Ziying's voice rang out again, this time filled with pity. At this moment, the Empyrean demon orb began to glow slightly and Jian Chen's sea of consciousness tremored slightly as well. At the same time, Jian Chen seemed to feel a connection between his spirit and the Empyrean demon orb. This Empyrean demon orb wants to take you as its master. You overestimate yourself. Ziying's voice was filled with anger and deep disdain that he struggled to conceal. With a flash of purple light, he immediately disrupted the process of Jian Chen becoming the orb's master. The red light on the Empyrean demon orb flickered frantically. It seemed to feel wronged, as if it was a bullied little girl. It was currently crying by itself. The Empyrean demon orb wants to take me as its master? Doesn't that mean that I can obtain the Empyrean demon arts once cultivated by the Empyrean demon monarch? Jian Chen asked out of curiosity. Master, the Empyrean demon monarch's Empyrean demon arts is indeed a great cultivation method, but it can't compare to chaotic force. This is because the chaotic body is a supreme cultivation method that has completely surpassed it. Master has no need to tamper with it, as it will only affect your future accomplishments, explained Ziying. However, he did keep one fact from Jian Chen: no one had ever been able to reach the utmost peak of the chaotic body in all of time. Master, Ziying is right. Even if you cultivate the Empyrean demon arts to its highest level, you'll only be able to reach the Empyrean demon monarch's former level of cultivation, who had even struggled to break through to demon emperor. If Master cultivates the chaotic body to the utmost extreme, Master will probably reach the levels of Grand Exalt. You'll be able to crush experts like the Empyrean demon Monarch with your fingers. Ching Suo's pleasant voice rang out. It was like music played by an immortal. Jian Chen understood now. The Empyrean demon arts created by the Empyrean demon Monarch was a high-level cultivation method, but it was nowhere near the chaotic body in terms of quality. It could not be compared to the chaotic body. If he used this method of cultivation, it was extremely likely that his future accomplishments would end up being limited instead, preventing him from standing at the very apex in the end. Then I won't cultivate the Empyrean demon arts if that's the case and focus on the chaotic body. Jian Chen immediately gave up on the idea of cultivating the Empyrean demon arts. Empyrean demon orb, this is not a place where you can stay. You should leave. Afterward, Ziying invited the Empyrean demon orb to leave, before chasing it out of Jian Chen's sea of consciousness. The Empyrean demon orb seemed to suffer greatly, constantly flickering with red light as it made its way out. It seemed to be crying silently as it was forced out of Jian Chen's sea of consciousness. Although the Empyrean demon orb was quite a powerful artifact, it was extremely weak just like the sword spirits. Only those who cultivated the Empyrean demon arts could use it, so it was of no use to Jian Chen who did not plan to cultivate the arts. Jian Chen's consciousness returned to his body. When he slowly opened his eyes, he immediately noticed the orb that shone with a demonic light as it floated before him. Are you Jian Chen or the Octoterra Emperor? A voice sounded from nearby. Nubis stood 20 meters away cautiously, staring at Jian Chen with a glare. His face was filled with anxiety and worry. Right now, Nubis was unable to tell whether Jian Chen had been possessed by the Octoterra Emperor or not. Jian Chen could not help but smile when he saw how Nubis acted. He said, "Nubis, I'm still me. Not only did the Blood Demon Emperor fail to take my body, I even ended him." Jian Chen, is it really you? Nubis immediately became excited. He had already known Jian Chen for quite some time, so he was extremely familiar with him. He was able to confirm that he had not been possessed just from the way that Jian Chen spoke and behaved. But soon afterward, Nubis became stunned. What did you say? That soul that wanted to possess you was the Blood Demon Emperor? Not the Octoterra Emperor? Jian Chen shook his head gently and narrated everything that had happened between him and the Blood Demon Emperor to Nubis. Nubis could not help but gulp and sigh in disbelief when he heard that the Samic Emperor and the Octoterra Emperor had both been devoured by the Blood Demon Emperor. Suddenly, Jian Chen seemed to think of something. He looked around and said, "Where's Thysnich? Where'd he go?" Nubis immediately became stern. Jian Chen, Thysnich has already entered the control center of the hall. He's currently taking control, so I believe he'll become the owner of the hall without much longer. We need to stop him. Jian Chen's expression changed when he heard that, before suddenly looking at the ceiling. His face immediately sunk. He had learned a little about the Divine Hall from the memory fragments of the Blood Demon Emperor as well. The most important piece of information was where the control center was located, and it just happened to be in the ceiling. The control center is sealed up, Jian Chen said with a deep voice. Jian Chen, did you learn how to open the control center from the memories of the Blood Demon Emperor? Nubis asked hopefully. He had already learned from Jian Chen that there was no path out of the Octoterra Divine Hall. The only way out would be taking control of the Divine Hall and sending people out using its power. Jian Chen shook his head. All he knew was where the control center was located. He had no idea how to open it. Then we can only break through this entrance. Battle intent surged in Nubis' eyes and a terrifying aura began to radiate from him. He had completely unleashed his might as a magical beast that was only an inch from Class 8. Let's try it. A sliver of determination appeared in Jian Chen's eyes. He had no other choice now that the situation was like this. Although he had devoured a part of the Blood Demon Emperor's soul, that did not give him control over the Divine Hall. He needed to control the center of the hall to control of the Divine Hall. There was no other way than that. The center was crucial for the control over the Divine Hall. With his king armament in hand, Jian Chen poured chaotic force into it, causing it to shine with a dark light. Its devastating aura was terrifying. Although the current chaotic force was not the true chaotic force, it was no different in behavior. A sharp howl rang out from Jian Chen's side. Nubis had already disappeared, now replaced by a snake that was 30 meters long. It was awe-inspiring, filled with nobility and pride. Nubis had already turned back to his true form, currently charging up his most powerful secret technique. Blinding gold and silver lights shone from him, and as he opened his mouth, a huge ball of liquid venom was immediately spat out, striking the ceiling of the hall with lightning speed. The venom of the silver-striped gold snake was supreme. It was the third greatest on the Tianyuan continent, while the venom he had just spat out was from one of his secret techniques. Its potency had reached a shocking level. Nubis' venom seemed to be able to eat through everything. As soon as it came into contact with the ceiling, signs of corrosion immediately began to appear on the ceiling, which even Saint King struggled to break. It was eaten away at a visible rate. However, all it managed to do was corrode away the outermost layer, before being stopped by the structure that was filled with the Divine Hall's power. It stopped there. 2 arm-thick streams of lights, one silver and one golden, shot out from his mouth and struck the ceiling heavily. It produced a great boom. This attack was in no way weaker than the full-powered strike of a third heavenly layer Saint King. At the same time, Jian Chen struck out with all his might. He rose up and his king armament viciously stabbed at the same area targeted by Nubis. Boom! Wild ripples of energy knocked Jian Chen back and forced him back to the ground. However, the entrance to the hall's center remained fine. Other than the outer layer eaten away by Nubis' poison, there was not even a mark. The entrance is as tough as the Divine Hall. We can't break through it with our current strength, Jian Chen said with a sunken face. His complexion was extremely ugly. Once Thysnich gained control over the Divine Hall, they would no longer have any ability to fight him. All they could do then was hide in the Saint artifact. Jian Chen had learned from the Blood Demon Emperor's memories that control over the hall meant control over its power. The hall's power could not be used to injure people outside, but it could be used however the person in control wished inside. Thysnich completely had the power to use it against them. The hall's supreme power was equivalent to the Emperor's power in Thysnich. Only Saint Emperors can break through this Divine Hall. Does that mean that only a Saint Emperor's power can break through this entrance as well? If that's the case, all we can do is watch helplessly as Thysnich gains control. Nubis' face was filled with regret. Chapter 937, Battle of Flame City, 1. Maybe there is one way we can break through this entrance, Jian Chen said with a dark face. Nubis' face lit up when he heard that. He looked at Jian Chen in interest and asked, Jian Chen, what other idea do you have? Find the Emperor Armament, and then use its power to break through, said Jian Chen. Nubis' positivity drained very quickly. He looked at Jian Chen with a troubled expression. It's not like you don't know about the Emperor Armament's power. We can't control it right now with our current strength. Even if we do have it under control, can it really break through the entrance? You have to remember that even the Emperor Armament is currently stuck in the hall and unable to break out. That doesn't matter. We need to try it, because there are no better ideas. All we can do now is hope that the entrance to the center of the hall isn't too tough. However, we need to make breakthroughs before we go find the Emperor Armament. When my chaotic body reaches the third layer, the Emperor Armament shouldn't be able to injure me anymore. I can control it easily by then, Jian Chen murmured. All right. I've reached the peak of Class 7 ages ago. If it weren't for the restrictions to enter the Divine Hall, I would have broken through long ago. We might be able to get through that entrance once we break through and use the Emperor Armament, said Nubis. Afterward, Jian Chen and Nubis immediately entered the Saint artifact. They wanted to reach Saint King in a single stroke. The Saint artifact was extremely tough. By hiding in it, Thysnich would struggle to break through it temporarily, even if he controlled the Divine Hall and used it to attack the artifact. As a result, the Saint artifact had now become Jian Chen and Nubis' only line of defense. Jian Chen sat in the center of an extremely peaceful hall in the Saint artifact. Mountainous piles of high-class monster cores and grand-quality crystal coins were stacked around him, with fist-sized divine-quality crystals sandwiched in between. These were the items Jian Chen needed to rely on the most to break through. They could provide Jian Chen with tremendous quantities of energy. As long as he had enough time, he could break through successfully. The first layer of the chaotic body gave me the strength of a third heavenly layer Saint Ruler, while the second layer elevated my power to the seventh heavenly layer. With a ruler armament, I could display the strength of the ninth heavenly layer, and the third heavenly layer of Saint King when coupled with a king armament instead. I should be able to skip through the eighth and ninth heavenly layers and directly arrive at Saint King with the third layer of the chaotic body. I just wonder how strong I'll become when I use the king armament, Jian Chen thought. He was filled with anticipation. And there's also the Emperor armament. It's already terrifying enough when no one's in control. I wonder how strong I'll become if I use it after I break through. Will I be strong enough to go toe-to-toe with Hall Elders? The golden silk mail is still with the divine general of the Serpent God Hall. I might not know how to strengthen it, but it's a unique treasure that the world has given birth to. It's also related to a calamity. When I get strong enough, I have to personally pay a visit to the Serpent God Hall and get it back. Jian Chen felt rather urgent about it. He knew that it would not be far until that day would come. Once he broke through, he should possess enough power to fight the 4 divine generals if he used the Emperor armament. Cultivating, I need to quickly cultivate. I need to reach the third layer as soon as possible this time. Otherwise, let alone getting the golden silk mail back, I won't even be able to leave this divine hall alive. Jian Chen quickly dismissed his thoughts, devoting all his attention to concentration. The sword spirit materialized above his head as they assisted him in the refinement of the monster cores, crystal coins, and crystals. A faint smell of blood lingered from the mountainous piles of monster cores. He had taken them all from the bodies of the vicious beasts from the hall recently, so the energy in each monster core was extremely active. It made refinement even easier. As time was tight, Jian Chen only used freshly harvested monster cores, and not the ancient ones that had solidified from the Saint artifact. They were all high-class monster cores, but quite a lot of their energy had leaked away and solidified. This was why it would take great effort and time to refine them. It was unsuitable for the current situation. Newbies did not just sit around as Jian Chen refined the monster cores. He cultivated quietly in another peaceful hall, using a different method of cultivation to Jian Chen. He absorbed the hidden essence in the old snake from the beast god continent. The entire process was much easier compared to Jian Chen, and it was faster as well. The center of the divine hall was a very small room. It was empty and without any furniture. The only thing present was a shrunken divine hall that floated in the center 1 meter in the air. The divine hall still possessed a tremendous aura, but it was extremely small. It was less than 1 meter in length and width. If someone familiar with the divine hall had discovered it, they would realize that it was the Octaterra divine hall but shrunken down by countless times. Thysnich currently sat with his legs crossed before this tiny version of the hall. His energy flowed unceasingly into the hall. Octaterra Emperor, never did I think you'd still be alive, and that your legacy was all just a trick you set up. We've all been tricked by you. But so what? The power of an emperor is present in my body. Not to mention being just a soul, even if you possess the ruler of the turtle clan successfully, you must be extremely weak. I'd like to see how you resist my attacks with the emperor's power. I might not be able to get a legacy, but my possession of the hall cannot be prevented by anyone. Once I control this place, there might not even be the need for me to waste my emperor's power. Just the hall could be enough to completely kill you off. Thysnich's eyes flickered with a sharp light. Although the Octaterra Emperor still being alive brought great shock to him, he felt no fear because he possessed ways to deal with the Octaterra Emperor. Octaterra Emperor, the time of your death will come in less than 5 years. It's just a pity that the ruler of the Turtle Clan will end up so miserably. In the blink of an eye, Jian Chen had already stayed in the Divine Hall for a year. Right now, the Flame Mercenaries had officially completed the construction of Flame City on the distant Tianyuan continent. The city walls were jet black. From afar, it seemed like a serpent dragon coiled up there. It possessed a tremendous aura and would unconsciously pressure the depths of people's hearts. They felt like they were walking beside a vicious beast as they passed by the walls. The walls were 100 meters tall and several dozen kilometers long. Many magical crystal cannons were mounted on top, and many soldiers stood next to each one. They were all extremely cold and stern-looking. Today was the third day the city had been completed, as well as the liveliest day since construction had finished. This was because the Vice City Lord had invited various large clans and organizations within a radius of 100,000 kilometers to come and participate in the ribbon cutting of the city. This was an extremely special day to Flame City. Not only did the king of the Jessen kingdom come after traveling a great distance, even the ancestor of the Changyang clan and Uncle Chang came. It could be said that Changyang Zhu Yinkong's life had been saved by Jian Chen. If Jian Chen had not gone to the Fantasy Star Ocean for the dragon's saliva, he probably would have passed away on Three Saint Island, never to be able to return to the Tian Yuan continent and reunite with his family. As a result, Changyang Zhu Yinkong cared for his talented grandson very much. The Flame Mercenaries were also founded by Jian Chen personally, so he naturally viewed the group with great importance. Even Ming Dong, De Gufeng, Tai Ta, Little Fatty, Wang Yifeng, and the others all came out of seclusion to participate in this ribbon cutting. As the core members of the Flame Mercenaries, how could they not appear on this important day where Flame City was formally established? After so many years of seclusion, all of them had made great improvements in their strengths. They did not become saint rulers, but everyone besides Wang Yifeng had reached the level of Heaven Saint Master. Within them, the one who progressed the fastest was not the talented Ming Dong or Little Fatty but the simple and honest Tai Ta. His speed could literally be described as divine, advancing at a startling rate. He had actually caught up and completely overtaken everyone else, reaching the peak of Heaven Saint Master. He was only an inch from Saint Ruler. Tai Ta underwent great changes that were coupled with his terrifying cultivation speed. Before, he was burly and dark-skinned like burnt charcoal. But now, all the pigment in his skin was completely gone. It had instead been replaced by a golden color and could actually shine with a metallic glint when he stood beneath the sun. Other than his skin tone, Tai Ta had become even larger and even bullier. He was now 4 meters tall. Coupled with his body frame, he seemed like a small mountain. Even under his honest appearance, a dignified aura could be found from time to time. As Flame City was the first city ever to be constructed purely out of tungsten alloy, its renown had spread through the entire continent long ago. This was why the boisterous atmosphere had completely exceeded people's imaginations. Other than the people invited from the surrounding region, many representatives from large clans and organizations had traveled hundreds of thousand kilometers, or even millions of kilometers to participate in the ribbon-cutting ceremony. This included an imperial protector of the Qinhuang kingdom with their third prince, Qin Ji, and Qin Shao, with a great elder of the Tianqin clan. They had all hurried over, travel-worn and weary. There were even some barely known hermit clans and even ancient clans that had sent people to congratulate Flame City with gifts. Even the Grand Elder of the Radiant Saint Union arrived personally under the accompaniment of 3 saint rulers to give the mercenaries good wishes. This time, almost a third of the entire continent's organizations had gathered in this tiny piece of land that Flame City sat on. It was so busy and lively that it could be considered as unprecedented. Chapter 938, Battle of Flame City, 2. The Vice City Lord of Flame City currently led a group of flame mercenaries to personally welcome the guests that had come from everywhere. The happiest and most excited person among all the guests would without a doubt be the king of Jizam Kingdom. He was filled with excitement that he struggled to suppress as he gazed at the mighty city walls and the various organizations that stood on the apex of the Tian Yuan continent. He had never even heard about many of these organizations. The smile on his face never disappeared. The source of his joy was the fact that the first Vice City Lord of the most valuable city in all of history was his daughter, Yu. Everyone had agreed in unison over the matter of Yu taking up the position, with no one against the suggestion. Flame City only existed because of Jian Chen, while Yu was Jian Chen's fiancée, the person closest to him. Her management abilities were outstanding as well, impressive in all aspects, so she was most suitable for taking up the position. It could be said that other than Yu, there was no one else suitable for the position of Vice City Lord. The uniqueness and value of the city made it so that it could not end up in the hands of outsiders no matter what. Although no one knew where Jian Shen was due to the matters regarding the winged tiger god, it did not sully the glory of Flame City. It was the only structure with city walls made completely out of tungsten alloy. It was equivalent to the 7 capitals that had existed for countless years on the Tianyuan continent. The ancient clan of Tianmu has come, the ancient clan of Mogan has come, more and more people gathered inside Flame City. These people arrived from various large organizations as the heavy, clear voice rang out. Changyang Zhu Yunkong and Bai Hai currently sat together in the huge imperial palace at the center of the city as they conversed over wine. They both smiled without restraint, observing the beautifully decorated hall from time to time. They were both at ease. Never did I think that my grandson would be so daring, to actually create such a great city out of tungsten alloy. This is unbelievable, Changyang Zhu Yunkong sighed. He was extremely happy. A happy smile also formed on Bai Hai's face when he heard that kid is quite good, especially with his talent in cultivation. It's unprecedented, using less than 30 years to reach Saint Ruler. His future accomplishments will definitely exceed what we can imagine. Bai Hai seemed to think of something as he reached there and sighed gently. It's a pity that he got sucked into the matters regarding the winged tiger god. The entire continent is looking for him now. Although he has hidden himself somewhere beyond the continent, even we don't know if he has come across any dangers. All we can do is hope he returns safely. Changyang Zhu Yunkong's happiness gradually disappeared when he heard that. He said with a frown, the matter regarding the winged tiger god is indeed troublesome. There are just too many things that connect to it. Unless he obtains power that can rival the 10 protector clans, he'll only be able to hand over the winged tiger god if he wants to return to the continent. Bai Hai and Changyang Zhu Yunkong had learned of each other's identities long ago. They were both grandfathers of Jian Shen if they looked at their position in the family hierarchy. Thus, they were members of the same family through Jian Shen even though they had different ages. Ming Dong, De Gufeng, Little Fatty, and Tai Ta all gathered in a garden within the palace. Unknowingly, a few years passed just like that. I wonder where Jian Shen is, and if he's well or not, the white-clothed Ming Dong murmured. Not only had Ming Dong's strength increased greatly after the few years of secluded cultivation, even his bearing underwent changes unknowingly. He had become less rash and more composed than before, seeming more modest and mature now. Don't worry, he'll be fine for sure. A cold voice rang out. It was the prideful De Gufeng. He was no different from before. Today is the important day that Flame City is formally established. As the first one in history to be constructed entirely out of tungsten alloy, news of it has spread through the continent long ago. Jian Shen might not know. Do you think Jian Shen would hurry back? Little Fatty said. He was filled with anticipation. All his fatty tissue from before could no longer be seen. His chubby stature from before had disappeared completely as well. He had become even more solidly built. Little Fatty's talent was very great. As Uncle Xiu refused to let him into the matters of the Tianyuan continent and had only wanted him to spend his life peacefully, his talent had been suppressed. However, now that he began to cultivate arduously, his rate of improvement was heavenly. Although it could not be compared with Tai Ta, it was not a speed that ordinary people could even consider. When Jian Shen comes back, I want to have a solid fight with him and see whether I'm stronger or he is. Tai Ta sat there like a mountain as he said with a soft voice. Excitement flickered in his eyes. At this moment, Tai Ta was the most powerful person among all of them. Even Ming Dong was not his opponent. His brute force was particularly great, even more terrifying than that of magical beasts. Tai Ta, if you want to fight with Jian Shen, you better devote your efforts to reaching Saint Ruler first. You may be strong, but there's a difficult gap to cross between Saint Ruler and Heaven Saint Masters, Ming Dong joked. I'm not scared. Right now, I feel like I can defeat ordinary Saint Rulers. Once Jian Shen gets back, I need to try him and see just how great the difference between the two of us still is. When we were at Kargath Academy, the difference wasn't this big. I hope Jianshan doesn't pull too far ahead. Tai Ta was confident. He could not help but think back to the time when he was at Kargath Academy with Jianshan. With that, he could not help but reveal an idiotic smile on his honest-looking face as he reminisced. Half a day later, Yu finally had some time to rest. She had been busy with receiving the guests. With a purple dress, she currently sat wearily in a seat as she rubbed her temples. As the Vice City Lord of Flame City, she needed to personally receive many people who had come from hermit or even ancient clans. This was why she was so tired. After so many years, Yu had changed greatly as well. She was now even more mature than before, while her beauty was still as enchanting. It was enough to cause the hearts of countless men to run wild. Vaguely enough, there was even the unique bearing of an upper echelon member present on her. Her temperament had silently undergone changes after these years of managing and being in charge of the flame mercenaries. Sister Yu, Lianer is so happy. The day which our flame city can stand on the Tian Yuan continent has finally arrived. We've looked forward to this day for so many years, and it's finally come true, a gentle voice sounded. Bai Lian ran over energetically in a luxurious long dress. Yu slowly sat up and said, "All the people that came this time has surprised me greatly," but, Yu then paused as her eyebrows furrowed slightly. "Sister Yu, but what?" Bai Lian asked curiously as she blinked her large round eyes. "But for some reason, I suddenly have an uneasy feeling, as if something bad is about to happen," said Yu. Bai Lian stared blankly as she thought slightly with a frown when she heard that. She then said, "Sister Yu, you're worrying too much. Everyone on the Tian Yuan continent knows that we have a protector clan backing up our mercenaries. I'm pretty sure no one will come looking for trouble." "You're right, but why can't I let this uneasiness inside me be laid to rest?" Yu murmured as she thought. Bai Lian rolled her eyes and giggled, "Sister Yu, you can't be missing my brother, right?" Yu's face became flushed as she faked her anger. "Stop spilling nonsense, Yu." 20 kilometers away from the city, a large group had suddenly appeared at this moment. They were extremely numerous, extending as far as the eye could see with densely packed people. There were at least several millions of them. They currently traveled quickly in the direction of Flame City in a fan shape, bearing a threatening and aggressive manner. Over 20 people of different ages rode at the very front of the group. They were all on large, Class 5 magical beasts as they approached Flame City. Every single person seemed extremely ordinary, without a rippling of energy from their bodies. They all seemed like people who could not cultivate. However, it was not difficult to see their areas of extraordinaire when observed in detail. Every single movement of every single person seemed to conceal and abide to the laws of the world indescribably, as if they were using the energy of the world. All of them were at least saint rulers. At the very center of them was a young man who seemed to be in his 20s. His face was cold, while a sneer hung on his face. Killing intent poured without restraint from him. He was Bai Jian. "Prince Bai Jian, there are countless experts gathered at Flame City right now. Are you sure they won't end up helping the flame mercenaries if we strike at this moment?" an old man beside Bai Jian asked with a deep voice. He was stern. "Don't worry at all. I have a notice written up personally by the protector clans. Unless those hermit or ancient clans no longer want to stay on the continent, they won't disobey the commands from the protector clans," Bai Jian sneered. He had never looked away from the mighty city as he spoke. He was filled with hatred. Flame City is the first city to be built purely out of tungsten alloy on the continent. TSK, what extravagance. Jianshan, I'll be taking this tungsten alloy city that you spent countless years and manpower to build, with the entire continent as the audience. This is your outcome for taking my love. The killing intent and hatred in Bai Jian's heart had already surged to his limits. He was clenching his fists so tightly that his nails had already pierced through his skin. Chapter 939, Battle of Flame City, 3. In order to take Flame City in one stroke, Bai Jian had made ample preparations. First, he persuaded the other protector clans through his father's connection with a Grand Elder of the Yuan sect and gained their support. Afterward, he personally went around on the continent, persuading more than 20 peak-level mercenary groups. Each and every one of them was equivalent to hermit clans, with thousands of years of history. They all had a long history and great power. Not only would they have saint rulers, they all had at least 10,000 members as well. This was how the current group had been formed. All the mercenary groups had arrived through space gates set up by Jian's father and the Grand Elder of the Yuan sect. There were several million present and each person was an elite, possessing formidable strength in battle. They outnumbered the Flame mercenaries by several folds. As there were numerous experts gathered in Flame City right now, the Flame mercenaries did not realize their arrival due to the mixing and mingling of auras in the city. Only when they were 10 kilometers from the city did the guards stationed on the walls realize their arrival. The guards immediately alerted their superior in charge of the city walls. The superior was a Heaven Saint Master. He arrived at the walls completely clad in tungsten alloy armor as he focused his attention on the large group of people that slowly drew closer. So many people have come. Looking at how they're organized, they are clearly coming with ill intentions. It's bad news. Do they want to take our Flame City? Don't they know that we have powerful clans supporting us? The captain on the city walls sneered as scorn filled his eyes. He then turned to someone to his side. Anrath, stay here and guard the place. I'll go contact the Vice City Lord. Yes, sir. The captain quickly made his way to the central palace of Flame City and reported to Yu. Bai Jian's huge group was already 5 kilometers from the city when Yu received the news. All the experts in Flame City finally sensed them since they were at such a close range and many people revealed uneasy expressions. In this current day, there was no one on the entire continent who did not know that the Flame mercenaries possessed the support of the Changyang Protector clan and Mercenary City. Was there any group or organization that dared to provoke the well-supported Flame mercenaries anymore? If that was the case, then the Flame mercenaries would not have been able to control the tungsten alloy mine for so long. It would have been divided up between hermit and ancient clans long ago. Yu immediately became grim when she learned that people were attacking. An ill omen had lingered in her heart since long ago. She knew that the official establishment of the city would not be as peaceful as they wanted it to be. At the same time, she knew even better that the people who dared to mess with them right now were definitely remarkable. This was because they came to mess with their city at this moment in time, when plenty of bigwigs of the continent had gathered. They definitely would be in possession of a perfect plan. Yu treated this with utmost importance. She was unwilling to be careless even in the slightest. She immediately contacted the experts of the mercenaries, before rushing to the city walls with Changyang Zhu Yunkong, Bai Hai, and Jie Tai. The huge group of invaders stopped quietly 5 kilometers away from the city. If someone looked down from the city walls, they would see a huge black mass of people that radiated with a towering presence. Bai Jian and his 20-odd saint rulers from the various mercenary groups currently sat on Class 5 magical beasts at the very front. Although the city gates were wide open, they did not hurry to attack. They needed to deal with all the experts gathered in Flame City first before they could attack, isolating them and preventing them from gaining support. If the Flame mercenaries did not have support from the Hermit and the ancient clans, they would not be able to repel Bai Jian's group with their own strength. Yu stood expressionlessly on the city walls. Her brows were deeply furrowed, while she was extremely grim. She knew that her ill premonition had finally arrived. Changyang Zhu Yunkong, Bai Hai, and Jie Tai stood beside Yu. They all glared at the black mass of people below. Name yourselves. Why have so many of you gathered outside the city when we are holding the ribbon-cutting ceremony? Explain yourselves. Bai Hai bellowed. His loud voice exploded through the sky like a clap of thunder, reverberating through a radius of several dozen kilometers. Ha 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 ha, you can call us the Extinguishing Alliance. You must know already why so many of us have gathered here today. Without long, the first city made from tungsten alloy on the continent will belong to the Extinguishing Alliance. Bai Jian laughed aloud as a certain madness appeared in his eyes. Don't you dare try and take our Flame City. Yu Yu's enchanting face was now furious. Flame City was a task Jian Chen had handed over to her before he left, so it belonged to Jian Chen. Now that it had just been constructed after countless years and difficulties, how could she let the city be taken away? Bai Jian stared coldly at Yu Yu as he smiled evilly. You must be that Jelan Princess Yu Yu of some Jessen kingdom, Jian Chen's fiancée in name. Jian Chen sure is fortunate to have stolen the heart of such a pretty girl. But it's a pity, from today onward, his fiancée will belong to me. He stole something from me and brought pain and humiliation to me, Prince Bai Jian. I will return this pain and shame to him by 1,000 folds. Bai Jian's voice was filled with malice and it echoed through the entire city due to its loudness. Everyone naturally heard his insult to Yu Yu. The city immediately fell into an uproar. All the people in the city, whether they had come as guests or were members of the Flame Mercenaries, put down the matters at hand and rushed to the city walls. Some people who were more powerful even flew there instead. Bang! In the palace, Ming Dong smashed the stone table in the pavilion where he sat. He said furiously, "Which bastard dares to insult my brother's fiancée? I definitely will not be letting this slide. Let's go check out who insulted my sister-in-law. I will definitely rip them into pieces." Tai Ta also stood up, angry as well. Now that Jian Shen is not here, we can't just watch his fiancée be insulted by other people. Let's go and teach that person a lesson, Wang Yufeng said furiously. He immediately placed his hand in his mouth to whistle, and a 5-meter-wide magical beast flew over, stopping right in front of him. Xiao Fei, let's fly in the direction of the city walls. There are some people provoking us. We gotta show them what we're made of. Wang Yifeng immediately leaped onto the magical beast's back and it took to the sky, making way directly for the city walls. Ming Dong and the other also made way to the city walls afterward. Grandpa Jun, Grandma Wang, the Flame Mercenaries seem to have encountered some troubles. I really do wonder who's brave enough to come at the Flame Mercenaries at this very moment. A girl spoke with a spirited voice as she rested in the palace. Her voice was very pleasant and possessed a numbing feeling, filled with allure. Those who were mentally weak would even become absolutely entranced by it. This lady was Tianmu Ling from the ancient Tianmu clan. Everyone knows that the Flame Mercenaries have a solid backing on the Tian Yuan continent. If that person is not stupid, he definitely would have made plentiful preparations to come at this precise moment. They won't be fearing the Flame Mercenaries backing at all. Maybe this is more complicated than it seems. Let's go and have a look, said Grandpa Jun. The three of them made their way to the city walls. The crowd within the city surged as everyone rushed in the direction of the city walls. The streets were filled with people, and even the skies possessed many heaven saint masters and saint rulers. Almost all of them were guests that had come to participate in the formal establishment of the city. As countless people descended on the city walls, it became filled with people in the blink of an eye. All of them stood on top with various attires. Ming Dong and the others gathered around Yu Yu as they all observed the huge army sternly. They asked, "Who are they? What do they want to do?" Yu Yu had already become pale white from anger. They claimed to be the Extinguishing Alliance, and they want to take our Flame City. Her voice was filled with unconcealable anger. The Extinguishing Alliance, as the name suggests, aren't they just an alliance that wants to wipe us out? They sure are brave to openly announce that they are against us. Ming Dong's face darkened greatly. The people they brought are so powerful. I can't see through the 20-odd people at the front at all. Are they saint rulers? Little Fatty growled. Tai Ta's eyes lit up when he heard that. He immediately began to itch, eager to try them as battle intent burnt in his eyes. He said with a soft, deep voice, "Saint rulers? I'd like to see just how powerful they are. They've clearly come with preparations. We can't be careless." Bai Hai was grim while his eyebrows furrowed. Changyang Zhu Yunkong's eyes were cold as he glared at them. He growled, "Flame City belongs to my grandson." Objects of the Changyang clan aren't things that any random person can show up and just take. Seeing how the various representatives of large forces on the continent had gathered on the city walls, Bai Jian could not help but sneer even more. He clasped his hands at them. Everyone, you are members of large, famed organizations of the Tian Yuan continent. Today, you shall all be witnesses as I, Bai Jian, show you how the Extinguishing Alliance will take the first city on the continent to be made entirely of tungsten alloy. Now, please sit and watch on one side. After this has all been completed, Flames City will become Extinguished City. At that time, the ribbon-cutting ceremony will progress as planned, establishing Extinguished City as a place equal to the 7 capitals of the continent. Chapter 940, Battle of Flames City, 4, Prince Bai Jian. There seems to be a prince from the Felicity Empire called Bai Jian. Is he perhaps one of the 9 princes from the Felicity Empire of the 3 great empires? Even if that's the case, the 3 great empires are only as great as ancient clans. How can they contend with the flame mercenaries that have the support of a protector clan and mercenary city? Bai Jian will be getting more than he bargained for this time. He's bound to come all gloriously and leave in a wreck. If the flame mercenaries really were so easy to take down, they would have been ripped into pieces by those ancient clans long ago. This Bai Jian is one of the 9 princes of the Felicity Empire. With his background, it's impossible that he doesn't know who's supporting the flame mercenaries. But he just still happens to be daring enough. Just what assures him so much, many people broke into discussions, constantly projecting their guesses and expressing their ideas. However, even more people just stood there, as if they were about to watch something good. They did not plan on taking part in this, only waiting to see the final outcome. Bai Jian's impudent words immediately made Yu and the others reveal extremely ugly expressions. Changyang Zhu Yunkong rose up in the air and stopped 100 meters above the walls. He radiated with a vast presence, which caused the wind and clouds to churn. Just you is far from enough to take Flame City. I wonder how many Saint Kings you have brought. Changyang Zhu Yunkong roared. His voice boomed through the surroundings, and the aura from him in particular surged. Although Changyang Zhu Yunkong remained at the first heavenly layer of Saint King, his current presence had actually made many saint rulers that were far beyond his level involuntarily view him with increased respect. Even the few Saint Kings hidden in the group could not help but look toward him in curiosity as they broke into murmuring. Bai Jian stared at Changyang Zhu Yunkong and a cold light flashed through his eyes. He said coldly, "Who is sire? Name yourself." "I am Changyang Zhu Yunkong." Changyang Zhu Yunkong said as he normally would. "What? He's actually Changyang Zhu Yunkong. Is he a member of the Protector Changyang clan? It's rumored that the Protector Changyang clan is split into 3 branches of Zhu, Yuan, and Qing. Is he perhaps a member of the Zhu branch? He's actually a member of the 10 Protector clans. I never thought that there would be people from the Protector clans present in the city. With a member of the Protector clans present, Bai Jian's gonna be returning in a horrible shape this time." The revelation of Changyang Zhu Yunkong's identity in public immediately led to an uproar. The 10 Protector clans were existences that always only existed within legends of the Tian Yuan continent, because they were the most powerful clans on the continent. They had existed since the ancient times and possessed a lengthy history that was hundreds of thousands, or even millions of years long. No one knew exactly how deep their roots were. Traces of them would rarely be found even over centuries of millenniums, and even if they did appear, they would not just reveal themselves to the world. They would not let the world know that they existed. Only a few hermit clans and ancient clans with several thousands of years of history knew about them. But, without any exceptions, all the clans that knew of their existence possessed a type of admiration for them from the bottom of their hearts. This was because the Protector clans always took up the important role as the guardians of Tian Yuan continent. They never interfered with any conflict on the continent, but silently protected the continent's peace. Repelling the invasion of the Beast God continent and other foreign races were an example of this. This was why they were so respected and possessed a supreme status among those clans. This time, the matters of the Winged Tiger God led to the invasion of the Beast God continent, forcing the Protector clans out into the eyes of the public out of some many years. This was why the news of the Protector clans had already spread throughout the continent. Everyone knew about them now. Changyang Zhu Yunkong's statement of identity immediately attracted the attention of everyone. Vast changes in everyone's gazes toward him occurred, some becoming filled with respect, some with envy, and so on. Bai Jian looked toward Changyang Zhu Yunkong and a cold sneer formed on his face. Since there are members of the Protector clans present, it'll be even easier. I shall show you all something, as well as ask the person from the Protector clan to explain whether this is true or not. Bai Jian raised a medallion and immediately poured a strand of Saint Force into it. The medallion immediately shone with a blinding light and an invisible intent began to ripple outward quickly with Bai Jian as the epicenter. It covered a distance of 1,000 kilometers, before gradually disappearing. For that period of time, all the saint rulers closed their eyes, including Changyang Zhu Yunkong. The ripple from the medallion was a type of message. It was forged using a special secret technique from the 10 Protector clans. As long as someone was a saint ruler, they would be able to receive it clearly. The saint ruler standing with Bai Jian naturally received the message as well, and they all revealed happy smiles. In that moment, any residual fear for Flame City had completely disappeared from their hearts. Impossible. Why would it be like this? Changyang Zhu Yunkong slowly opened his eyes. His face was not very great. Bai Hai, Jetta Tame and the other saint rulers who had come to participate in the ribbon-cutting ceremony of the city all opened their eyes as well. All of their expressions changed, no longer able to maintain their previous manner. Jetta Tai and Bai Hai both became extremely ugly, their faces darkening greatly. Bai Hai was affected in particular. His old eyes now filled with fury and an unwillingness to give in that he struggled to suppress. Only saint rulers could receive the message from the ripples, so Ming Dong, Yu Yu, and the others had no idea what had happened. Grandpa Bai Hai, what has happened? Yu Yu asked nervously. The ill omen in her heart became heavier and heavier as she saw everyone's expressions. The 10 Protector clans want to wipe out our Flame City, Bai Hai said gruffly. What? The 10 Protector clans want to wipe out our Flame City? Why? Yu Yu's expression changed and immediately began to pale. The City Lord of Flame City is a member of the 10 clans, and there's an agreement between the Protector clans that they don't interfere with the matters of the Tianyuan continent. Flame City's existence already breaks this agreement, so they want the city to disappear. At the same time, they've warned and prohibited all other clans and organizations from assisting Flame City in repelling any attacks, Bai Hai said. What? How did it end up like this? Yu Yu's face paled, now without any traces of blood. She just could not accept this. The 10 Protector clans were the oldest and most powerful organizations on the continent. If they wanted someone to disappear, it would be unavoidable even if it was an ancient clan that possessed Saint Kings, let alone the Flame Mercenaries who were much weaker than ancient clans. The only reason why the Flame Mercenaries could maintain their possession of the tungsten alloy mine was purely because they had the deterrence from the Protector Changyang clan and Mercenary City. If they lost the support of these two powers, it would have been impossible for the mercenaries to maintain possession of the alloy for so long. Sigh, never would I think that something like this would happen. The 10 Protector clans have spoken out personally. No one dares to help the Flame Mercenaries anymore. Tian Muling's grandfather Jun sighed deeply. He was filled with helplessness, before slowly leaving as he tugged Tian Muling along. He expressed that they would not be participating in this. Tian Muling became torn between emotions, silently standing beside her grandfather Jun. She knew that no one would be able to help the Flame Mercenaries this time around, or they would be challenging the dignity of the 10 Protector clans. The outcome would be unimaginable. There had never been a person or organization who was brave enough to challenge the dignity of the 10 Protector clans in all of history. Afterward, all the experts who had come to participate in the city's establishment backed away, deciding to not interfere with this matter. In the blink of an eye, only Yu Yu's group remained standing at the front, now isolated from the others. The only other person who did not move was the ancestor of the Huang family, Huang Badian. However, uncertainty flickered through his eyes, clearly torn in a dilemma. Bai Jian knew that it was time when he saw the situation of the walls. He swung his hand and yelled, "Attack, take down this valuable city. Brothers, let's go, everyone attack, charge, for the city, this city will belong to us in the future. Charge, my brothers, I swear to protect Flame City with my life. I swear on my life to protect our family, I swear to protect my family. I will never let it fall into the hands of others, Flame City is the glory of us flame mercenaries. It cannot be taken by others. Kill!" The skies were filled with war cries as the millions of people charged at Flame City like a tide. None of them were weak, so the tall walls could not obstruct them at all. Several Earth Saint Masters leaped up the walls as a great battle erupted with the flame mercenaries. Although there were over 100 magical crystal cannons installed on the walls, no one had thought they would be attacked when they were holding a ribbon-cutting ceremony. As a result, no monster cores had been prepared for them, so they were now all just useless pieces of decoration. Ming Dong, De Gufeng, Little Fatty, Wang Yifeng, Tai Ta, and the other experts of the flame mercenaries all took part in the battle as well. They all swung their saint weapons, constantly killing off opponents from the alliance. In the blink of an eye, they all become dyed in blood. Yu Yu and Bai Lian stood together as they stared at the surroundings with pale faces. They never thought that such a drastic change would occur on the very day the city would be established. This was originally a day of celebration for the flame mercenaries, something that they could get excited and joyful about. But in the end, it had descended into this scene of war and bloodshed. The ground, originally red with fireworks, had been replaced by blood, while the sounds of laughter and happiness were replaced with miserable howls. Yu Yu and Bai Lian struggled to accept it as the tragedy unfolded before them. Bai Hai, Jetta Tai, and Changyang Zhu Yunkong's expressions darkened as they stood beside the two girls, gazing over the 20 saint rulers that had yet to move. Chapter 941, Tai Ta's strength. Bai Hai, Jetta Tai, and Changyang Zhu Yunkong's expressions darkened as they stood beside the two girls, gazing over the 20 saint rulers that had yet to move. Several kilometers away, Bai Jian stared coldly at the three of them as he sat on his Class 5 magical beast mount. Severe killing intent appeared in his eyes as he said coldly, "The flame mercenaries only have you as saint rulers. Alright, I'll kill you all today then, and make the flame mercenaries collapse completely. Additionally, Jian Chen's fiancé and sister will both become my women in the future. Jian Chen, I have sworn before that I'd make you suffer so much grief that you would wish you were dead. I'll make you regret all that you've done to the heavenly enchantress. This is what you get for offending me." Hatred for Jian Chen skyrocketed in Bai Jian's heart. It was so intense that it drove him toward madness. The source of this hatred was the heavenly enchantress. Bai Jian rose from his mount as he radiated with vast killing intent, shooting directly for the city walls. His eyes were completely bloodshot, filled with hatred and resentment, as if he had some great grudge against Bai Hai and the others. In this moment, all of Bai Jian's hatred for Jian Chen had been shifted toward the people around him. The expressions of Bai Hai and the others immediately sank when they saw Bai Jian charge toward them. Bai Hai cried out, "This person is very powerful, already of the 7th heavenly layer. Take the two of them and go, Yun Kong. Jetta Tai and I will keep him busy." Before he had even finished his words, Bai Hai flew out. His body radiated with tremendous saint force toward Bai Jian, while behind him was Jetta Tai with his ruler armament in hand. They wanted to obstruct Bai Jian by working together. "Grandfather, come back. They have over 20 saint rulers. You're not their opponent," Bai Lian cried out urgently as she stood on the city walls. She was filled with worry. This is not the time to act tough. "Let's leave first," Changyang Zhu Yunkong growled. With a wave of his sleeve, an invisible force wrapped around Yu Yu and Bai Lian as he took them away. Although Changyang Zhu Yunkong had broken through to Saint Ruler, he was still on the 1st heavenly layer. Moreover, the seal in his mind was still present, so he could not use most of his strength. He was no opponent for these people who had reached Saint Ruler many years ago. Boom! Bai Hai and Jetta Tai had started to fight Bai Jian already. The power that erupted as soon as they clashed could collapse mountains. From just a single bout, they broke through to the void, forming a pitch-black crack in space. Wild residual energy wreaked havoc in the surroundings as it expanded from where they clashed as the center, knocking the people below off their feet. It injured thousands. Even just the two of you dare to try me? You overestimate yourself. Bai Jian's gaze toward Bai Hai and Jie Tai was filled with scorn. Without even using his saint artifact, he directly hurled a fist at Jie Tai. The punch contained Bai Jian's comprehensions of the mysteries of the world, so it seemed to fuse with the surroundings. It was extremely fast, preventing Jie Tai from dodging it, so it landed forcefully on his chest. A bloody mist sprayed out from Jie Tai's mouth as he fell. He was still a saint ruler of the third heavenly layer, so his disparity with Bai Jian was just too great. He had been heavily injured from just a single bout. With Jie Tai out of the battle, only Bai Hai was left. Bai Hai was of the sixth heavenly layer, only one cultivation level below Bai Jian, and he had a solid foundation as he had broken through to saint ruler by comprehending the mysterious beast furs. So even though he was weaker than Bai Jian, he was able to stand his ground against Bai Jian for quite a while and go without suffering defeat for some time. Bai Hai and Bai Jian's battle was extremely intense. Every time they clashed, the booms would be thunderous and absolutely deafening. Wild ripples of energy expanded in all directions, causing the ground to crack and mountains to collapse. It was as if an apocalypse had arrived. Flame City was also struck with the residual energies from their battle. However, it was made of tungsten alloy and was as tough as the 7 capitals of the continent. Although the battle was intense, it did not even shake Flame City. Bai Hai and Bai Jian fought as they rose up in the air, surpassing an altitude of 10,000 meters very quickly. They became 2 white specks in the sky. They worried that too many people would be injured from the shockwaves of their battle and thus suffer celestial decay. This was why they moved the battle so high up in the air. Meanwhile, the alliance formed from over 20 peak-level mercenary groups continued their battle with the Flame Mercenaries. The various experts that had come from all over the continent only watched on from afar, and none had any intentions of interfering. The Flame Mercenaries suffered an irremediable lack in both numbers and strength compared to the extinguishing alliance. As a result, the Flame Mercenaries fell into a disadvantaged situation without long, forcefully suppressed by the opponents that outnumbered them by several times. They sustained heavy casualties. Ming Dong, Little Fatty, Wang Yufeng, Du Gufeng, and the others worked hard to kill their opponents, constantly cutting down members of the alliance. However, the person with the most outstanding performance was Tai Ta. He was dyed in blood, while his burly body stood out among the crowds of people. He was like a small moving mountain. Tai Ta's clothes had already been reduced to shreds, while the huge axe in his hand constantly dropped with bright red blood. Every time he swung out, he would slaughter several members of the alliance. No one could resist a strike of his. Tai Ta was like a grinder, creating a massacre among the members of the alliance. Countless people had already been felled by his hand, while a path made completely from corpses had formed behind him. Not only was Tai Ta extremely powerful, the toughness of his body could be considered as almost deviant. He did not dodge the attacks from everywhere at all, resisting it purely with his body. Those from Earth Saint Masters failed to even cut through his skin, while even Heaven Saint Masters struggled to create any large wounds on him. Tai Ta's body was so tough that it could be comparable to Jian Chen's chaotic body from before. Several Heaven Saint Masters realized how strong Tai Ta was, and thus surrounded and began attacking him together. However, as soon as they drew near him, they were knocked away by Tai Ta's axe. They all vomited blood, now heavily injured. Call some stronger people and finish him off together, someone called for support. Very soon, over 10 Heaven Saint Masters flew over from nearby, surrounding Tai Ta tightly before shooting powerful sword chi toward him. Tai Ta remained calm. He wielded his axe in one hand and swept it around him in a circle. It easily broke through all the sword chi from the Heaven Saint Masters. The violent residual energies slammed into his body, but failed to even shake him. His feet seemed to be rooted deeply in the ground as he stood there firmly. Tai Ta stamped on the ground heavily, immediately shooting toward one Heaven Saint Master. The bloody axe in his hand shone with a slight golden color as he directly swung it toward the Heaven Saint Master's head. The axe seemed to contain some law of the world, whistling through the air with a certain profoundness as it chopped down. The Heaven Saint Master immediately raised his saint weapon high up in the air to block the attack. Ding! The Heaven Saint Master's saint weapon had actually been shattered by Tai Ta's axe as it continued downward without any reduction in force. It passed through the Heaven Saint Master's head and split him in half. He was as fragile as tofu. The expressions of all the Heaven Saint Masters that surrounded Tai Ta changed drastically when they witnessed this. They were all filled with disbelief. "Why, you're a saint ruler," a Heaven Saint Master said with a trembling voice. To them, only saint rulers could break a Heaven Saint Master's saint weapon so easily. "I'm not a saint ruler," Tai Ta responded with his deep and soft voice, before charging at the others with his giant axe. The axe slightly flickered with a golden light, and with every strike, it contained some type of mysterious law of the world. It possessed an extremely great might, and even sixth cycle Heaven Saint Masters struggled to block it. They would be split into two along with their saint weapons. In the blink of an eye, half the Heaven Saint Masters in the area had been bisected by Tai Ta. They were all killed off by a single swing of the axe, while the other Heaven Saint Master began to panic after witnessing Tai Ta's strength. They began to flee as if their lives depended on it, while Tai Ta seemed determined to kill them as he chased them. "Save us, former captain." A few frightened Heaven Saint Masters began to call out for help. The saint rulers that did not take part in the battle noticed this immediately. An old man moved slightly and traveled several kilometers to arrive before Tai Ta in the blink of an eye. He stared at Tai Ta coldly and said, "Sire is skilled, but the flame mercenaries are already done for. Why not join our alliance? With Sire's strength, you'll definitely be treated greatly." Tai Ta paid no attention to the old man's attempt to recruit him. Without even saying a word, he directly swung his axe at the old man. The old man's face became icy. With just a thought, the space around Tai Ta froze in that instant. It locked Tai Ta's burly body tightly in place and immobilized him. "Those below, Saint Ruler, are all ants. It would be as easy as cake if I wanted to kill you. My love for talent has just been aroused after seeing your strength, so I'll spare your life. So what do you think? Are you joining us?" The old man said condescendingly. His gaze toward Tai Ta was full of scorn. With his dignity as a saint ruler, he really did completely look down on Tai Ta. Tai Ta became grim before roaring at the sky. A faint golden light immediately began to shine from his body, while even his axe became coated in a hazy golden luster. Although it was very faint, it was much stronger than when he killed the Heaven Saint Masters before. Tai Ta's trapped body suddenly moved. In that moment, he seemed to have become immune to the frozen space completely. He raised his axe high up while his grasp became two-handed from the initial one hand. Immediately, an indescribably tremendous aura began to pour from his body. Tai Ta seemed to become one with the axe in that instance. His posture seemed to possess some indescribable charm, resonating with the world. He had obtained a sliver of mysterious power that originated from the world. Stepping out, his axe became a streak of golden light, directly ignoring the frozen space and falling down with lightning speed. "How is this possible?" The saint ruler paled in surprise. He found it difficult to accept the fact that a mere sixth cycle Heaven Saint Master could just ignore his frozen space. But what filled him with even more disbelief was that he felt a great threat from Tai Ta's axe. The saint ruler reacted very quickly, unwilling to be careless. A flame-red machete immediately appeared in his hand, and he swung it to meet Tai Ta's axe. His machete was coated in a layer of invisible world force. Chapter 942, Protector Shui sized Tai Ta's huge axe cut through the sky as it shone with faint golden light, colliding with the saint ruler's machete. Boom! The axe and machete collided violently, and a wild ripple of residual energy expanded from their clashing point. It quickly reached the surroundings, knocking everyone in a radius of 1,000 meters into the air. Only Heaven Saint Masters could remain where they were. Heavy pieces of soil were lifted up into the air of the region, kicking dust into the air and enveloping the entire battlefield. Tai Ta's body flickered with golden light as the violent energy struck his body. He actually remained unmoving like a mountain. Tai Ta maintained control over his axe as it crushed heavily down toward the Saint Ruler's head. The Saint Ruler had used his Saint weapon to block Tai Ta's axe, but the lower half of his body had already sunken into the ground. He could only be seen from waist up, and he was rather pale. However, shock and disbelief were even more evident from him. Tai Ta forcefully went up against a Saint Ruler as a 6th cycle Heaven Saint Master. They were matched and Tai Ta even seemed to have the upper hand. The other Saint Rulers from the Extinguishing Alliance who had yet to participate in the battle discovered this. They all became astounded. He's clearly just a 6th cycle Heaven Saint Master, yet he can forcefully take on a strike from a Saint Ruler. Who is this person? His battle prowess is terrifying, growled a middle-aged man. His voice was filled with deep shock. Lu Zheng is already a 3rd Heavenly Layer Saint Ruler. Even 1st Heavenly Layer Saint Rulers can't take on a strike like that without suffering injury. Who is he? He's clearly a Heaven Saint Master, yet he's so terrifying. And that person seems to be immune to Lu Zheng's frozen space. That's unbelievable. How does he do it? Perhaps he has some powerful ancient secret technique? The Saint Rulers all stated their thoughts. All of them found it quite unreal that Tai Ta could fight on equal grounds with a 3rd Heavenly Layer Saint Ruler as a 6th cycle Heaven Saint Master. All those below Saint Ruler were ants. This was a saying that had persisted on the continent even until now, and it had always held true. Yet today, they had seen someone prove it wrong. This was an impossible miracle in their eyes. Ming Dong and the others naturally saw this as well. With their mouths agape, they stared in complete disbelief. They knew that Tai Ta was powerful, but they had never even thought that he would be so strong, able to stand his ground against a Saint Ruler. Many experts from hermit and ancient clans who watched from afar also discovered Tai Ta's extraordinaire. They all focused their attention on him as uneasiness flickered through their eyes. Tai Ta, good on you. Kill viciously, kill off all the invaders of our homeland, Wang Yifeng cried out from afar. He was filled with excitement. With that, Tai Ta immediately thought of why all these people had come here. Anger immediately flushed his face, and with a bellow, an extremely tremendous energy immediately began to pour from his body. It powered up his arms and passed through the axe, pushing Lu Zheng's body down by another 30 centimeters. Only his upper body was visible now. Lu Zheng immediately became filled with burning fury as he realized that he had actually been forced into such a horrible position by an ant-like Heaven Saint Master. His dignity as a Saint Ruler had been trampled on, and to him, this was an uncleanable embarrassment. He would be too ashamed to see anyone in the future. This was because something so exaggerated had never occurred on the continent before. A Saint Ruler had actually been beaten into the ground by a Heaven Saint Master. After the battle, his name would spread across the continent, but it would not bring any glory or status, only jeering and mockery. Lu Zheng became even angrier as he thought about it, before he roared out involuntarily. Surging Saint force poured into his body as he utilized every inch of his strength into blocking Tai Ta's axe. His body immediately shot up from the ground, leaving behind a hole that was around a meter deep. "Kiddo, I'll tear you to shreds." Lu Zheng bellowed furiously. The machete in his hand chopped toward Tai Ta's head as it burned with flames that were coated in dense world force. This time, Lu Zheng used everything he had. All his strength as a 3rd Heavenly Layer Saint Ruler had been displayed. He had held nothing back. Tai Ta felt no fear. With his 2 hands gripping his axe, he chopped out once again toward Lu Zheng. The axe and blade clashed, producing an explosive boom. Wild ripples of energy knocked both of them backward. Suddenly, an extremely powerful battle intent filled the surroundings. The battle intent seemed to be able to invade people's blood and possess them, unknowingly affecting everyone. The battle between the Flame Mercenaries and the Extinguishing Alliance became even more intense as they were influenced by this battle intent. Both sides seemed to completely throw themselves into the battle, forgetting pain and forgetting themselves. All that was left in their heads was to fight. To fight. To fight. All the experts who watched on from afar became surprised. They could naturally feel the battle intent that flooded the battlefield, and they all glanced toward Tai Ta. This was because they could all sense extremely clearly that this battle intent originated from him. In this moment, Tai Ta hovered 3 meters in the air as he radiated with battle intent. With his stalwart body, he seemed like an ancient war god. He slowly raised the giant axe in his hand as the golden light on it became more and more intense. In the blink of an eye, a gigantic blurry golden axe materialized above his head, before chopping wildly toward Lu Zheng. All the battle intent in the surroundings seemed to gather together at an unbelievable speed while the blurry axe swung down, making it less blurry and more concentrated. Whoosh! The image of the axe swung down extremely quickly with a flash of golden light. It arrived above Lu Zheng's head, before slicing through his head. Lu Zheng stood there unmoving. A finger-wide crack appeared on the ground between his feet. It was perfectly straight and several thousand meters in length. Tai Ta slowly closed his eyes after the strike. Not only did the golden light on his body show no sign of receding, it instead became more intense and much purer than before. Far denser battle intent began to radiate from him once again, directly surging toward the sky. A few strands of hair fell from Lu Zheng's head. Soon afterward, an extremely thin red line appeared on his forehead. It constantly grew longer, reaching his eyebrows and then his neck in the blink of an eye, before disappearing into his clothes. This was the blood from Lu Zheng's body. A golden light seemed to shine from the blood, growing brighter and brighter. It produced a bang in the end and Lu Zheng's body split in half. His soul was gone as well. And this was how a 3rd heavenly layer Saint Ruler fell, slain by a 6th cycle Heaven Saint Master. All the spectators watched in stupefaction from afar as their hearts began to churn. They were unable to remain composed. Even though everything had unfolded before their eyes, they still refused to believe or accept it. To their knowledge, those below Saint Ruler were ants. This was an unchangeable truth. Before Saint Rulers, Heaven Saint Masters did not even possess the ability to wound them because Saint Rulers had comprehended the mysteries of space. All they needed to do was freeze the surrounding space and the Heaven Saint Master would be immobilized, essentially becoming a sitting duck. Yet in this moment, they had personally witnessed a 3rd heavenly layer Saint Ruler cleanly and miserably slain by a Heaven Saint Master. All of them felt deeply shocked. Tai Ta hovered in the air with his axe as the battle intent constantly increased around him. The golden light on his body became more and more intense as well. This time, even a few Saint Rulers struggled to remain in control. They could feel their blood surge, circulating several folds faster than its normal rate. A powerful desire for battle quickly skyrocketed in their hearts for some reason, making them all wish for a fulfilling battle right now. Unbelievable. The battle intent from him can influence us unknowingly. What is this weird art? It's so terrifying, a Saint Ruler called out. His voice was filled with fear. The other Saint Rulers all revealed shocked gazes as well while they stared fixedly at Tai Ta. They wanted to see exactly what Tai Ta was doing. At the same time, a grand divine hall stood in a world of snow and ice at the Arctic. A person completely clad in silver-white armor currently sat in a secret room, revealing only her closed eyes. Suddenly, her eyes opened slowly and she gazed in the direction of the Tian Yuan continent. She sighed and said, "The bloodline of the warring gods has finally awakened. I just wonder how great his bloodline is, whether he can become a Grand Prime or not." The bloodline of the warring gods had awakened in something several tens of thousand years ago, but it was a pity that I couldn't interfere with it. He died here in the end. How pitiful, how grievous. In that battle all those years ago, the Grand Prime of the warring gods was slain by the Grand Exalt of the Sword Sect of Violet Heavens using the divine azulate swords. Yet here, the person with the bloodline of the warring god stands with he who inherits the Sword Sect of Violet Heavens. Is this a blessing, or is this a tragedy? The esteemed ice god was heavily injured by the Grand Exalt of the Sword Sect of Violet Heavens and still has not fully recovered now. I wonder if the successor here is a reincarnation of that grand exalt. Back then, 3 elders from the Sword Sect of Violet Heavens died by my hand, yet now, the successor of the sect is actually a sibling of the Holy Maiden. Chapter 943, Tai Ta's Sainthood. The current situation is an absolute mess. I've waited here painfully for 3 million years, yet why does the Holy Maiden have to appear at this exact moment when the successor of the Sword Sect is here? And they have such a complicated relationship. I don't need to worry about the person of the warring gods. When he learns the truth in the future, I think he'll make the right choice. If he takes the wrong one, he can only disappear. They're born from the world anyway. With the death of this generation, another person of the warring gods will be born again after a few 100,000 years or even 1,000,000 years, the person in silver armor murmured to herself. Her voice was pleasant, but it was also filled with coldness and lacked emotions. Outside Flame City, the golden light around Tai Ta had already turned him into a blinding sun. No one could see him properly. Tai Ta's presence skyrocketed as the battle intent that flooded the surroundings became more and more powerful. When his presence reached its absolute limit, a thin streak of golden light shone from him, directly into the sky and possibly even beyond that. At the same time, the energy of the world and the surroundings began to move violently. All of it within a radius of 10,000 kilometers gathered in his direction, before being absorbed by Tai Ta like a whale taking in water. It gathered densely in Tai Ta's surroundings, actually forming a visible vortex. The battle between the Extinguishing Alliance and the Flame Mercenaries continued. Everyone was affected by Tai Ta's battle intent. They forgot about their pain and even themselves. They felt no dread or fear, only one thought lingered in their heads: to fight. Fight. Fight non-stop. Ming Dong, De Gufeng, Wang Yifeng, Little Fatty, and the others were affected as well, massacring mindlessly among the army of the Extinguishing Alliance. Only the Saint rulers managed to remain in control of themselves. Tian Muling and the other people that had followed their seniors along were unconscious. They had been knocked out by their seniors, preventing them from being affected by the battle intent. Tai Ta's body was like a bottomless hole as tremendous quantities of energy of the world poured toward him. He had yet to reach his limits, so nothing happened to him. Just what is he doing? What are the origins of this person? He looks like he's undergoing some mutation by the looks of things. All the Saint rulers who watched the battle began to speculate as they all stared at Tai Ta curiously. Tai Ta's absorption lasted for quite some time before finally stopping. The energy gathered around him gradually dispersed, finally returning to peace once again. Even the golden light around him gradually disappeared, revealing his burly body once again. All the blood on him had disappeared, only revealing his slightly golden skin. His bulky, turgid muscles were physically striking, while a small and exquisite battle axe imprint had appeared between his eyebrows. The battle intent in the surroundings gradually disappeared as well as it funneled into Tai Ta's body in the form of an invisible energy. Everyone had returned to peace in the blink of an eye. Without the influence of the supreme battle intent, the millions of people from both sides returned to their senses. Immediately, heavy exhaustion flooded through their bodies to the point that they even became dizzy. They seemed to have wasted all their power after entering the state of self-forgetfulness. All of them could not help but think back to when they were in that state. They were all at a loss, while the more powerful Earth Saint Masters and Heaven Saint Masters reacted greatly as their faces were filled with shock. They could clearly remember what had just happened, all the way up to this point in time where they came to a realization suddenly. They had lost control completely when they were in the forgetful state of battle before, as if their bodies and souls had been unknowingly controlled by someone in the dark. Both sides lost all intent for battle after being influenced like this. They all backed off, returning to their respective bases. They left behind a field full of corpses and fresh blood, which testified for the violence of the battle before. However, no one paid attention to either side right now. They all placed their focus on Tai Ta without any exceptions. Tai Ta slowly descended. Even though the supreme killing intent had disappeared, his body was now replaced with an even more powerful presence. His long hair fluttered in the windless air as golden light seemed to flicker faintly on his burly body. An extremely powerful and violent energy would radiate from his body from time to time. Although he just stood there at leisure, his giant body brought on an oddly powerful pressure to all the Saint rulers. Right now, he stood in the world like a war god, causing people to feel like he was invincible. Meanwhile, his great aura was no weaker than the presences of Saint rulers. Has he broken through? His presence is comparable to Saint rulers. Is he a heaven Saint Master or Saint ruler? Was that situation before the process of his breakthrough? No mysteries of the world descended, nor did the rainbow clouds appeared. Did he reach Saint ruler or not? Everyone, regardless of Saint rulers from hermit clans or Saint kings from ancient families, all murmured in their hearts. They could all feel that although Tai Ta was powerful before, he was still a heaven Saint Master. Now, he actually possessed the might of Saint rulers after that process. But no mysteries of the world descended, nor did any rainbow clouds appear. Was this still breaking through? Or was he always hiding his strength before? A figure fell from the sky. The high-altitude battle between Bai Hai and Bai Jian had finally ended, and Bai Hai was not able to come out victorious. He was heavily injured by Bai Jian, falling out of the sky as he constantly vomited blood. Bai Jian's face bore intense filling intent as he descended in pursuit. He swung the Saint weapon in his hand, shooting a powerful sword chi at Bai Hai. Bai Hai's strength had been greatly reduced as he was injured, but he still blocked Bai Jian's sword chi with difficulty. It made his wounds even worse. Bai Jian caught up with Bai Jian very quickly, locking him in by freezing space. He swung mercilessly toward Bai Hai's head as his Saint weapon rippled with energy. Mysteries of war, Void Smasher. Tai Ta bellowed. With his great axe in hand, he swung a blow at Bai Jian as his weapon glowed with a faint golden light. A visible projection of a giant axe broke through the air, fusing with an extremely pure battle intent as it flew toward Bai Jian. When the projection struck Bai Jian's frozen space, the space immediately shattered, while the projection continued onward without any decrease in force. It flew toward Bai Jian with great might and a towering battle intent. A gleam of light flickered through Bai Jian's eyes and he gave up on Bai Hai. The Saint weapon in his hand traveled toward the axe projection while being coated with a layer of world force. A great boom erupted when the two collided. Bai Hai successfully broke free, while Bai Jian was knocked 100 meters away uncontrollably. Bai Jian remained calm while his eyes shone. He stared fixedly at Tai Ta with a sharp gaze as he said coldly, "You're not weak, but it's a pity you stand with Jian Chen. There can only be death for you." Bai Jian then fused with the surrounding space, shooting toward Tai Ta as a faint blur through the use of spatial force. The Saint weapon in his hand radiated with light and energy that could shake up the void as it pierced toward Tai Ta. Tai Ta did not show any weakness at all. Extremely pure battle intent burned violently on him as it filled him with fighting spirit and a desire for battle. An invincible spirit appeared on him as both his body and his axe shone with blinding gold light. Afterward, his body seemed to become one with the axe, chopping toward Bai Jian with unstoppable force. Mysteries of war, Mortality Breaker. Boom! Tai Ta's axe struck Bai Jian's Saint weapon ferociously, immediately producing a deafening boom. Wild residual energy wreaked havoc, turning the surroundings into a mess. Bai Jian stumbled more than 10 steps back from the blow, while Tai Ta's huge body had also left the ground, flying back rapidly as the golden light on him dulled. Bai Jian stabilized himself very quickly, before staring at Tai Ta in shock. He exclaimed, "What powerful strength! He's clearly weaker than me, yet he can force me back with just his strength. What is this technique? It's so odd." If someone had looked carefully, they would clearly see that Bai Jian's Saint weapon was trembling gently. But very quickly, Bai Jian's face became filled with killing intent again. He said, "The more extraordinary you are, the more I cannot leave you alive. Die." Bai Jian fused with the surrounding space once again to charge at Tai Ta. He caught up in the blink of an eye, locking Tai Ta by freezing space before stabbing out at lightning speed. The golden light on Tai Ta's body flickered rapidly as he directly overcame Bai Jian's frozen space. He swung out once again, but it was much weaker than before. Bai Jian's body shook violently from the strike, but he did not take a step back this time. On the other hand, Tai Ta stumbled rapidly backward, leaving deep footprints in the ground. "You're actually able to move freely in my frozen space," Bai Jian exclaimed. His voice was full of shock, but he did not hesitate with his following moves, chasing up to Tai Ta once again and striking out. "Mysteries of war, celestial movement," Tai Ta bellowed. He suddenly disappeared as Bai Jian's saint weapon arrived, reappearing 10 meters away. Although he had dodged the attack, Bai Jian had left a small nick on his left arm. A golden fluid flowed from it. "What? Golden blood?" Bai Jian immediately cried out when he saw golden blood bleed from Tai Ta's wound. He was filled with disbelief, as if he had just discovered a whole new continent. How is that possible? How can his blood be golden? All the saint rulers also discovered Tai Ta's peculiarity and cried out as well. Tai Ta's expression changed greatly and his giant axe immediately disappeared. He used his other hand to cover the wound tightly, concealing the golden blood. He was uneasy. The golden blood had always been Tai Ta's biggest secret. Only Jian Chen and Ming Dong knew about it, and he had told no one other than the two of them. This was because he had always been afraid that he would end up being treated as a monster if other people learned that his blood was golden. Chapter 944, Gathering of the Powerful. Bai Jian stared at Tai Ta in astoundment. "Golden blood. It's golden blood. How can it be golden? Are you not a human?" "Who said I'm not a human? Other than my big stature, is there any part that seems non-human?" Tai Ta became frantic as he countered hurriedly. He worried about this the most and was afraid that people would label him as a monster or an outsider. At this very moment, the space in the sky began to distort and a space gate formed very quickly. A white-robed, middle-aged man emerged. Ripping open space to construct a space gate is an ability of Saint Kings. A similar thought appeared in the heads of all the saint rulers when they noticed the space gate above, already realizing the person's strength. Ming Dong rejoiced when he saw the man and immediately took to the skies toward him. Ming Dong called out, Uncle Tian, you've finally come." He was the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, Tianjian. Several dozen people immediately took to the air as they flew steadily toward Tianjian. They were all saint rulers that originated from various large clans on the continent. There were even a few saint kings hidden in between them. They stopped 50 meters from Tianjian and clasped their hands in unison toward him. "We greet the Grand Elder." Bai Jian also flew from the ground, clasping his hands courteously toward Tianjian. One of the 9 princes of the Felicity Empire, Bai Jian, greets the Grand Elder. Bai Jian looked at Ming Dong from the corner of his eyes from time to time, the depths of his eyes revealing an extremely well-hidden but cold light. "The Grand Elder? Is he the Grand Elder of Mercenary City?" The saint rulers who did not recognize Tianjian guessed his identity and also went up to greet him with clasped hands. "Everyone is too courteous," Tianjian said calmly toward all the people, before looking toward Ming Dong. Some traces of fondness appeared in his eyes. "Not bad, your strength has been increasing very fast in the past few years. It's so great that even when I was your age, I was nowhere near you." Ignoring Ming Dong's happiness, Tianjian then looked toward Tai Ta. When he noticed Tai Ta's golden blood, his eyes froze, while his eyebrows also became deeply furrowed. "Golden blood," Tianjian murmured as he began to think. With a wave of his hand, an invisible force immediately wrapped around Tai Ta. It lifted him up into the air and brought him in front of the Grand Elder. "Tai Ta, don't be afraid. This is my Uncle Tian. He won't harm you," said Ming Dong. Tai Ta nodded his head as he stared at Tianjian. His hand remained on his wound as he pressed down tightly, but golden flood still flowed through his fingers. It was eye-catching. Tianjian examined Tai Ta with his eyes. He revealed a frown, while his expression was torn between shock and doubt. Tai Ta, I never thought you'd be so powerful, to the point where you can even kill saint rulers. Oh right, just what type of powerful battle skills are Broken Void and Broken Mortality? Why have I never heard of them from you before? When did you learn them? Looking at their power, they should at least be high-level heaven-tier battle skills, Ming Dong asked Tai Ta curiously. He was uncertain as to how Tai Ta had gained so many powerful battle skills. Tai Ta shook his head in confusion as he replied with his soft, deep voice, I don't know what happened either. I just knew after I broke through. What? You knew right after you broke through? Ming Dong was stunned with disbelief. Mysteries of war, Tian Jian muttered softly as he thought deeply. He felt like he had seen the phrase somewhere before. Suddenly, Tian Jian seemed to think of something. His expression changed suddenly as he stared at Tai Ta in shock. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Mysteries of war, golden blood, and an imprint of a battle axe between the eyebrows. Aren't these all ancient records regarding the war god of the 100 races, Ergens? Perhaps he is the war god of the 100 races? Tian Jian's heart began to churn. After discovering the secret of Tai Ta's identity, he struggled to remain calm even with his level of mental strength. Uncle Tian, what's wrong? Ming Dong saw how Tian Jian had reacted so violently, so he asked out of curiosity. Bai Jian, the other saint rulers, and the few saint kings also realized Tian Jian's reaction, which aroused their curiosity. They wondered exactly what could make the Grand Elder of Mercenary City react so violently. But despite their suspicions, no one dared to ask him so brazenly like Ming Dong. Tian Jian sucked in a deep breath and slowly calmed himself down. His gaze toward Tai Ta had currently undergone an overwhelming change. Ming Dong, is this a friend of yours? Tian Jian asked Ming Dong. Yeah, Uncle Tian, Tai Ta's one of my few friends. He's Jian Chen's friend as well, replied Ming Dong. Tian Jian was relieved. A joyful smile appeared on his face, before he exhaled deeply, sigh, the winged tiger god and the war god have reappeared. Supreme experts have been born for the beast god continent and the 100 races, while the sea goddess of the sea realm is still alive. I wonder where the supreme expert of our humanity is. In that moment, a strong uneasiness overwhelmed Tian Jian's heart. He was worried about the safety of the Tian Yuan continent. Of the 4 great races, only the Tian Yuan continent's supreme expert had yet to appear. If they were to return to how it was in the ancient times, how would the Tian Yuan continent possess the power to contend with the 3 other races? However, what made him slightly relieved was that both the winged tiger god and the war god were on great terms with Jian Chen and Ming Dong. They had yet to become enemies with the Tian Yuan continent. I wonder how Jian Chen is like. He reached Saint Ruler in 20 years. His talent is the most outstanding on our current continent and he knows the spirit of the barrier as well. Is he the future hope of our continent? Tian Jian began to think of Jian Chen this time and immediately experienced a wave of anticipation. At that very moment, Tian Jian's eyes suddenly narrowed. Tai Ta, you should go to Mercenary City. As he said that, he directly waved his sleeve. A heavy force wrapped around Tai Ta before he could even reply, forcefully dragging him away through the space gate. Bai Jian's expression changed slightly when he saw Tai Ta taken away by Tian Jian. Tai Ta was someone he needed to kill. However, he said nothing. Uncle Tian, what are you doing? Ming Dong looked toward Tian Jian in confusion. As soon as he finished this sentence, the surrounding space began to distort violently once again. Several space gates appeared in unison, and experts of varying ages stepped out from within. To no surprise, they were all members of the 10 Protector clans. All 10 Protector clans had gathered in the air above Mercenary City. Although the people who had come were not the most powerful in their clans, they were all still Saint Kings. Another space gate opened up beside Bai Jian and his father Bai Yifei emerged. His face was rather pale and haggard. His soul had been injured by Jian Chen's god descent in the battle above the sea realm. A great elder of the Yuan sect was injured too, while Bai Fei had yet to fully recover. Tianjian stared calmly at all the people from the Protector clans and said softly, I never thought that all the Protector clans would come. Grand Elder, Jian Chen is Changyang Shangtian, while Changyang Shangtian is a member of the Protector Changyang clan. The flame mercenaries he founded breaks the agreement that our 10 clans initially set down, so they must be destroyed. We are currently dealing with our personal business, so I hope your mercenary city does not interfere, a great elder of the Yuan sect said to Tianjian with clasped hands. At this moment, another space gate opened up. 2 ruddy old men emerged from within, arriving before Tianjian as they glided through the air with a single step. They were the 3rd and 4th elders of Mercenary City. Grand Elder, we cannot interfere with the matters of the Tian Yuan continent. We can't forget what the city lord set down before, said the 3rd elder. Grand Elder, the rules the city lord initially set down was that only when the entire continent was in danger. Only then could we come out and prevent internal conflicts, preventing our strength from waning. However, this small-scale conflict is not enough for us to interfere, and this is also classified as an internal affair between the 10 Protector clans. We can't interfere, added the 4th elder in persuasion. Ming Dong immediately became worried when he heard that. Uncle Tian, we spent several years' worth of power and efforts to build this city. You can't let others take it. Tianjian sighed gently and said after some thought, Ming Dong, I can't help you with this. Uncle Tian, Ming Dong did not give up and wanted to continue his pleas. But before he could say anything, he was cut off by Tianjian. This is all because of Jian Chen. If you want to change this, only Jian Chen can do it. Once he becomes powerful enough, he'll naturally be able to retake the city. Ming Dong, come back to Mercenary City with me and cultivate hard there. I'll use all my extra time to assist you as much as I can. Without even listening to Ming Dong's reply, Tianjian forcefully took Ming Dong away, returning to Mercenary City through the space gate. The 2 elders of Mercenary City also left in unison with Tianjian's departure. They did not stay for long. Konger, come back with us. Changyang Zhu Yunshao looked at Changyang Zhu Yunkong. His voice was filled with helplessness. Changyang Zhu Yunkong had returned to the city walls with Yu Yu and Bai Lian again. Hearing Changyang Zhu Yunshao's words, anger immediately appeared on his face. Father, do you really want to just watch what your own grandson made after all these years and efforts be destroyed just like this? Konger, it doesn't matter how great of an organization he formed before he was a member of the Protector Changyang clan. Now he is a member, we need to follow the agreement we had set down. I hope you can understand, sighed Changyang Zhu Yunshao. Why would he not want to keep the city completely made of tungsten alloy? But the agreements was like that, he could not do what he wished. This was because as soon as the agreement was violated, their Changyang clan would become pressured by the other 9 clans. Changyang Zhu Yunkong, the agreement set down all those years ago between us cannot be broken. As a member of a Protector clan, you must follow through with the agreement. It's best if you don't interfere with what happens here, an expert from the Pure Heart Pavilion said. He was an ordinary-looking middle-aged man who possessed an aura as if he had transcended worldly affairs. Chapter 945, Third Layer of the Chaotic Body, 1. Changyang Zhu Yunkong's expression darkened. He glanced back at the first city that had been constructed purely out of tungsten alloy and had over 100,000 members. His eyes were filled with pain. He had only been able to break through to Saint Ruler and return to the continent because his grandson completely forsook his personal safety and risked his life to obtain dragon saliva from the Fantasy Star Ocean. If it were not for the dragon saliva, how would he have been able to return to the continent from 3 Saint Island? He probably would still be waiting silently for the end of his life, never to be able to break through. As a result, Changyang Zhu Yunkong felt a deep gratitude toward his grandson. Yet right now, his grandson's flame city was about to be taken by someone else, while all he could do was watch helplessly. This overwhelmed Changyang Zhu Yunkong with pain and sadness. This city was not any old city either but one that had been completely constructed out of tungsten alloy, which was 10 times more valuable than purple coins. It would be able to stand parallel to the 7 capitals of the continent. Conger, let's go. We can't interfere with the matters here at all, Changyang Zhu Yayin said softly. She too was torn between emotions. She clearly understood her son's pain. She also felt intense gratitude to Jian Chen because he allowed their family to reunite. However, everything currently unfolding was beyond what they could help with. Yu Yu and Bai Lian, who stood beside Changyang Zhu Yunkong, were also overwhelmed by grief as clear tears rolled uncontrollably down their cheeks. The two of them knew that having Flame City taken away from them would become an unchangeable reality with everything like this now. The city was Jian Chen's property. It was the task he had handed over to the two of them. They had devoted several years' worth of painstaking effort and hard work on the city, almost exhausting all the resources that Jian Chen had left behind. It took them over 100,000 people to build, yet as soon as it was completed, such a tragedy occurred. It filled the two of them with absolute pain and an unwillingness to just stand down. They had devoted so much, yet it would be taken by others in the end. They struggled to endure or accept this. Jian Chen, sorry. I failed to live up to your expectations. I couldn't keep Flame City, Yu Yu sobbed softly. Her voice was filled with helplessness and a feeling of being wronged. Wang Yifeng, Little Fatty, De Gufeng, Yunzheng, Seniorin, and the other experts of the Flame Mercenaries all focused on the two girls. Each and every one of them was depressed and dejected, no longer possessing any will to fight. Clearly, they already knew about the fate of the city. Changyang Zhu Yunkong hesitated for a very long time before sighing deeply. All right, let's go. But I'm taking away everyone who is related to Jian Chen. In that moment, Changyang Zhu Yunkong seemed to grow a lot older. No one on the Tianyuan continent had the power to interfere with what was unfolding before them, as it was the decision of the 10 protector clans. Changyang Zhu Yunkong waved his sleeve, slowly raising Yu Yu and the others into the air with his abilities as a saint ruler. He stood with Changyang Zhu Yunshao as he looked down. Bai Hai, Jetta Tai, let's return to the Changyang clan first. Bai Hai and Jetta Tai hesitated slightly before flying over as well. They planned on leaving with Changyang Zhu Yunkong because they could already vaguely guess that the Extinguishing Alliance would not let them off if they continued to stay. Bai Jian immediately became extremely ugly as he saw that everyone important to Jian Chen was about to be taken away. He bellowed, wait, as a member of the Changyang clan, you, Changyang Zhu Yunkong, can naturally leave. But they're not members of the protector clans, so they can't leave. Bai Jian had already set his eyes on the lives of those around Jian Chen, unwilling to let anyone off. How could he let them leave so easily? Only with that could he vent his hatred for Jian Chen and relieve himself of this grudge. Changyang Zhu Yunkong's face darkened as cold light began to flicker in his eyes. Before he could even speak out, Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's voice rang out, when did you have the right to nitpick who the Changyang clan can take away? If you want to speak anymore, I won't be going easy on you, even if it may come off as bullying. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao formed a glare. His voice was extremely stern, possessing the fury he struggled to conceal. Although Changyang Zhu Yunxiao lived in Lore City, he was a great elder of the protector Changyang clan, so he knew about this matter. He knew that everything had only occurred because of Bai Jian and his father, so his hatred toward the two of them was very intense. Bai Jian immediately shut up when faced with Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's loud voice, unwilling to speak anymore. Although he was confident with his Saint King father supporting him, he did not dare to directly provoke the dignity of a protector clan's great elder. Bai Jian went silent, tightening and releasing his hands several times. His heart was filled with an unwillingness to abide. He was unable to complete his revenge against Jian Chen now that all the people had been taken away. Yu Yu stared at the city below tearfully. Since you want this city, then take it. We, the Flame Mercenaries, surrender. The Flame Mercenaries could only surrender with how the current situation was like. Any resistance before the great army of the Flame Mercenaries and the 20-odd Saint Rulers would be futile. How can it be that easy with just a surrender? Kill, people of the Extinguishing Alliance. Leave no one alive, Bai Jian gave the order with bloodshot eyes. He seemed extremely savage. Immediately, the cries of battle rang out again as the army of the Extinguishing Alliance surged toward Flame City. Sai, the Saint King from the Pure Heart Pavilion, exhaled softly. He pointed out gently, and the surrounding energy of the world immediately began to move, erecting a wall that was several hundred meters tall and over 10 kilometers long. The wall blocked the Extinguishing Alliance, preventing their advance toward Flame City. The Flame Mercenaries have already surrendered, so why must you kill them all? They haven't committed any unforgivable sins. Stop, the person said gently, but his voice reached the ears of everyone. His voice was filled with peace, immediately wiping out all the rash and bloodthirsty feelings of the people below. The army stopped, before retreating after some hesitation. All of them knew that since the Protector clans had spoken out, even their captains would need to obey obediently. God damn it, you bastard. Doesn't the Pure Heart Pavilion never interfere with things? Why have they started to mind other people's businesses? Bai Jian constantly swore inside, but he did not dare to say it aloud. Even if he was 100 times braver, he would not dare to curse the Saint King right in front of his face. In the end, Changyang Zhu Yunshao left through a space gate with his group of people. He did not return to the Protector clan but to the Changyang clan in Lore City. Meanwhile, all the members of the Flame Mercenaries left the city dejectedly. A portion of them stayed behind, planning to travel 100,000 kilometers to Jessen Kingdom, while the others left the mercenaries altogether, running off in all directions. With this, the Flame Mercenaries had been greatly affected. Although they did not disband, their strength was far from before. Flame City was taken over by the Extinguishing Alliance and renamed Extinguished City. It became a famed place that stood equal to the 7 capitals of the continent. Although Bai Jian had essentially ripped apart the Flame Mercenaries, he did not feel happy at all, as he failed to kill even a single person out of everyone important to Jian Chen. They were either taken away by the Grand Elder of Mercenary City or taken away by the Changyang clan. Very soon, the Battle of Flame City swept through the entire continent like a storm, throwing the entire continent into a huge uproar. Although the Flame Mercenaries were defeated in the end, their fame became even greater, far exceeding the Extinguishing Alliance that occupied Extinguished City. This was because the Flame Mercenaries were the first mercenary group that required all 10 Protector clans to appear. Just that was enough for it to be renowned through the continent. In a quiet little valley at the edge of the Cross Mountains, an old man sat on his bed with his eyes closed. He seemed like an old monk. He slowly opened his eyes and sighed gently. It's fine if it's taken, it's not necessarily bad. Little Fatty should reach a better understanding of the importance of strength after this. If he wants to protect his homeland and family on the Tianyuan continent, he needs to have great strength. He needs to become so powerful that no one dares to provoke him. Jian Chen is in the Sea Realm right now. I wonder what his current strength is. He needs to deal with the matter of Flame City himself. I hope that I don't have to wait for too long until the day he gains the strength where he can contend with the Protector clans. The pak choy is almost all consumed. Time to plant some more, the old man murmured as he made his way out with the plow on his shoulder. He had taken it from the corner of the room. In the blink of an eye, 4 years passed. A fist-sized golden tower hovered in the air within the Octaterra Divine Hall as it shone with a faint golden light. Jian Chen currently sat in the center of a huge hall within the artifact space. The azulate sword spirits had materialized above his head. They constantly refined monster cores and divine quality crystals into the purest energy, which Jian Chen then absorbed. The mountainous piles of high-class monster cores, grand quality crystal coins, and divine quality crystals had all disappeared from around him. It had all been refined into pure energy, before being transformed into powerful chaotic force. Jian Chen's chaotic Niden slowly revolved in his dantian. Strands of gray chaotic force coiled around the Niden, while the Niden itself had already reached the size of an adult's fist. When the final monster core had been refined, Jian Chen slowly opened his eyes. He revealed joy that he struggled to conceal as he murmured, "Just one last step and my chaotic body will reach the 3rd layer." With a wave of his hand, a 10-meter tall piece of grand quality crystal emerged from his ring, landing heavily in the empty hall with a boom. This crystal was the throne that Jian Shen had obtained on the first floor of the hall. Jian Shen leaped onto the throne nimbly and sat down with his legs crossed. He began to refine it. Chapter 946, Third Layer of the Chaotic Body, 2. The giant throne completely made from divine quality crystal constantly shrank. It transformed into strands of pure energy that entered Jian Shen's body under the refinement of the azulate sword spirits. It then became a part of the chaotic force within Jian Shen. Jian Shen was still at the initial stages of the chaotic body. As long as he had enough energy, he could refine it into chaotic force, while the sword spirits would help increase the rate of his refinement. As the chaotic force constantly increased, Jian Shen's chaotic Naiden constantly bulged as well, reaching its absolute limit very quickly. Boom! Suddenly, a violent sound erupted inside Jian Shen's dantian. It was extremely loud and clear, and even people outside would be able to hear it. His chaotic Naiden had shattered, turning into a large swathe of chaotic force that quickly wreaked havoc in his body. Jian Shen seemed to be pumped full with air as he resisted the chaotic force, bulging at a visible rate. Very soon, he became a 10-meter-tall giant. The tremendous chaotic force within him wreaked havoc wildly, rampaging everywhere like floodwater. Jian Shen furrowed his eyebrows gently. The violent pain which he had not experienced in quite some time pierced his spirit once again, mercilessly devastating his nerves. Jian Shen had already experienced a breakthrough of the chaotic body before, so it was an easy process due to experience. He immediately began to control the chaotic force within him and circulated it along a special, predetermined path recorded in the Azulate Sword Law. Gradually, the chaotic force within him increased in purity, while its quantity rapidly decreased. The chaotic force was currently undergoing its third change, taking a qualitative metamorphosis. As the chaotic force rapidly strengthened, it broke the balance within Jian Shen's chaotic body. The body was immediately damaged as heart-wrenching pain radiated from every inch of Jian Shen's body. He began to spasm uncontrollably. Jian Shen gritted his teeth. Not only did the speed of change fail to decrease, it sped up instead, but he made no sounds as he resisted the pain that rapidly became more intense. The sword spirits did not stop, continuing with their refinement of the huge throne. They provided energy to sufficient support the transformation of Jian Shen's chaotic force. The chaotic force within him rapidly decreased, while his body slowly shrunk as well. He returned to his original size soon enough, but he was now covered in blood. Blood had been forced through every pore of his skin, while each droplet of blood radiated with powerful ripples of energy. It was enough to easily kill off an Earth Saint Master. Jian Shen's chaotic body was rapidly destroyed and healed. Each time it healed, some of the strengthened chaotic force would fuse in as well. His chaotic body was rapidly strengthening thanks to the qualitative increase of his chaotic force. The evolution of the chaotic force and chaotic body lasted for half a month before the chaotic force inside Jian Shen finally calmed down. It stopped rampaging, while a thumb-sized chaotic Naiden floated silently in his dantian. Strands of powerful chaotic force coiled slowly around it. Jian Shen's clothes had been reduced to shreds long ago, while the throne beneath him had already shrunken to half its size. The blood all over him had disappeared as well, returning into Jian Shen through his pores. Jian Shen slowly opened his eyes and suddenly stood up from the throne. Immediately, a tremendous presence began to radiate from him. His presence formed a whirlwind that slammed against the walls of the hall, making it tremble constantly. At that moment, Jian Shen seemed to be a primordial beast that had just awakened from his slumber. He could make the earth shake just by his presence alone. Congratulations on reaching the third layer, the sword spirits said at the same time. Jian Shen tightened his fists as he felt his strengthened chaotic force and chaotic body. He could not help but smile. Third heavenly layer of Saint King. The third layer of the chaotic body allowed me to leap directly from the seventh heavenly layer of Saint Ruler to the third heavenly layer of Saint King. I directly passed through 4 levels, the 8th and 9th heavenly layers of Saint Ruler, and the 1st and 2nd heavenly layers of Saint King, murmured Jian Shen. His voice was filled with joy that he struggled to hide. With a flip of his hand, the King Armament appeared in his grip. Surging chaotic force was poured into the King Armament, immediately causing it to shine with a blinding dark light. An aura of destruction filled the hall, causing it to tremble. The fifth heavenly layer of Saint King. The King Armament only increases my strength by 2 heavenly layers now, Jian Shen murmured to himself, but his eyes were filled with dissatisfaction. When he was a 7th heavenly layer Saint Ruler, the King Armament would give him the strength of a 3rd heavenly layer Saint King. It was 5 entire cultivation levels. Now that he had reached the 3rd heavenly layer himself, the King Armament only increased his strength by 2 cultivation levels. Its effect had decreased by over a half. The more powerful I become, the greater the gap between each level of cultivation. Maybe it's because of that which leads to a smaller increase. I wonder how strong I'll become if I use the Emperor Armament, murmured Jian Shen. He quickly dismissed his thoughts, pulling out a new set of clothes from his space ring and wearing them. Afterward, he left the hall which he had stayed in for many years. Jian Shen paid no attention to the shrunken throne. He planned on using it again in the future to refine chaotic force. He needed to find the Emperor Armament right now, to prevent Thysnich from gaining control over the Divine Hall. Jian Shen saw Nubi's at first glance as soon as he left the hall. Nubi's strength had also increased greatly now that he had completely absorbed all of the old snake's hidden essence. Not only did he reach Saint King, he was even of the 2nd heavenly layer. Nubi's eyes narrowed as soon as he saw Jian Shen. He cried out, "Jian Shen, what level of cultivation have you reached now? I actually can't see through you, and I even feel a certain pressure from you. My God, did your strength exceed mine in these short 5 years?" "I've reached the 3rd heavenly layer of Saint King," smiled Jian Shen. "What? The 3rd heavenly layer? How is that possible? It was only a short 5 years and you went from the 7th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler to the 3rd heavenly layer of Saint King. That's unbelievable." Nubi stared at Jian Shen dumbfoundedly. He was filled with disbelief. He struggled to accept just how fast Jian Shen's strength had grown. In the past years, Nubi's had only improved so quickly due to the absorption of the old snake's hidden essence, yet Jian Shen had surpassed him just with his own cultivation. It was a great psychological blow to Nubi's. "Jian Shen, you're only 30 years old right now. A 30-year-old Saint King, if this makes its way out, both the Sea Realm and the Tian Yuan continent will be thrown into an uproar," said Nubi's as he sighed emotionally. The Tian Yuan continent. Jian Shen immediately became distracted when he heard the Tian Yuan continent. A deep yearning flooded his eyes. However, he returned to his senses very quickly, while his gaze became determined once again. He said, "Nubi's, let's go. We can't give Thysnich too much time." Jian Shen and Nubi's left the artifact space together, reappearing on the 9th floor of the hall once again. Nearby, the Empyrean demon orb hovered in the air as it shone with faint red light. The saint artifact disappeared into Jian Shen's forehead as a streak of golden light. Jian Shen glanced at the Empyrean demon orb but did not pay too much attention to it. He was currently trapped within the Octaterra Divine Hall, and whether he could leave or not was the problem. He had no time or energy to consider other things. Nubi scanned the ceiling that led to the center of the Divine Hall and said, "Looks like the Divine Hall can't be controlled so easily. Thysnich is still not done. Jian Shen, why don't we see if we can break through the entrance right now? Our strengths may have increased greatly, but it's far from enough to break through the entrance. We need to find the Emperor Armament as soon as possible. Once it's in my hands, I can display even greater strength, so I'll have greater confidence in breaking through the entrance," Jian Shen said gruffly. His voice was extremely stern. "All right, then let's go search for the Emperor Armament," said Nubi's. Jian Shen and Nubi's immediately left the 9th floor as they made their way to the 8th. They constantly looked around, looking for any marks that the Emperor Armament may have left behind. Very quickly, the two of them returned to the 8th floor. The formation there had disappeared, but the 9 blood-red pillars remained. As soon as they reached the 9th floor, the pillars began to shine with bright red light and the formation was activated once again. But this time, Jianchen and Nubis both remained composed. Jianchen flipped his hand and the king armament appeared in his grasps. He directly lashed out, shooting a powerful sword chi toward one of the pillars as his weapon radiated with an aura of destruction. Boom! The pillar shattered loudly. With its destruction, the formation was immediately broken and the blood-red light in the air slowly disappeared. Jianchen had destroyed the formation in one strike before it could even be activated completely. Jianchen put the king armament away and looked around. He began to frown slightly as he murmured, "There are actually no signs of the Emperor armament. Just where has it run off to? We found no marks at all as we made our way from the 9th floor to here. The Emperor armament can't have disappeared, right?" Nubi's eyebrows were furrowed slightly as well as he asked in confusion. Jianchen pondered silently for a while as he looked at the path toward the 7th floor. He said, "Let's go down. The Emperor armament should be extremely familiar with this hall, so I'm guessing it must have used a path that we don't know of to leave the hall. It must be outside." Chapter 947, Controlling the Emperor Armament. Jianchen and Nubis continued their way down, but the passageway to the 7th floor had been blocked by an extremely tough stone door. The door was made of the same material as the one for the treasury on the 2nd layer, which had required a very long time to break through under the attacks of several dozen 9th heavenly layer saint rulers and over 20 Tian level saint techniques. "I wonder if we can smash through this door with our current strength," murmured Jianchen. He quickly drew his king armament from his space ring and poured chaotic force into it. It immediately began to glow with a dark light as its aura of destruction filled the entire hall. Nubi's expression changed slightly as he involuntarily took several steps back. He was secretly shocked. Jianchen was already more powerful than him without the king armament. With the king armament right now, he felt a tremendous pressure from his aura. Nubis felt like Jianchen was invincible right now. In just a few short years, Jianchen reached such a level with his strength. If he continues like this, he'll be able to reach Saint Emperor in less than 100 years, or maybe just a few decades, thought Nubis. Jianchen's eyes narrowed as he became one with his sword. The king armament was thrust toward the center of the stone door with lightning speed. Boom! A wild energy immediately emerged and wreaked havoc in the surroundings. It rampaged against the walls of the hall, causing it to shake gently. Jianchen's strike was as powerful as an attack from a 5th heavenly layer Saint King, but he still failed to destroy the door in one stroke even with such a powerful attack. The sharp tip of the sword was embedded in the door, while a thin crack that covered the entire surface appeared. Jianchen wrenched his king armament from the door, before striking out once again with a tremendous aura. The door began to shake gently, while the cracks became wider and denser. Afterward, Jianchen's 3rd, 4th, and 5th strike followed closely. The door finally broke after the 5 attacks, turning into countless pieces of rock that scattered everywhere. Jianchen put his sword away and smiled involuntarily. If he had come across this door several years ago, he definitely would not have been able to break through it. It took a very long time even when several dozen 9th heavenly layer saint rulers and over 20 Tian level saint techniques pummeled it constantly. Yet now, he easily destroyed it with 5 attacks. He felt extremely satisfied with his current strength. Jianchen and Nubis descended to the 7th floor. Several years ago, they were in a state of constant fear with every step, yet now they walked boldly. They did not fear of any formations hidden in the surroundings. This was because the formations were no longer able to trap them or even stop their steps. Jianchen could break through them all with a single stroke. Jianchen and Nubis made their way down the floors, searching for the Emperor armament everywhere. They reached the 1st floor very quickly, before directly passing through the hall's main entrance. The barrier around the hall remained, while the corpses of a few C-race experts lay scattered outside. They had shriveled up long ago, while the mountainous piles of vicious beasts had all disappeared. Jianchen and Nubis struck the barrier together, forming a crack that they left through. Boom! 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 Boom. They heard a muffled sound as soon as they made their way out, which was coupled with powerful energy ripples. Jian Shen and Nubi's eyes immediately lit up. They could already guess that the activity was from the Emperor Armament. It was striking the main entrance of the Divine Hall repeatedly. As I thought, the Emperor Armament has run outside. Jian Shen's eyes burned with anticipation. He immediately shot off toward the direction of the sound. As the hall was surrounded by the barrier, it cut off all sounds from outside. This was why the two of them had sensed nothing from outside. Only when they passed through the barrier could they detect the huge disturbance caused by the Emperor Armament. Jian Shen and Nubis traveled as fast as they could. As they rapidly drew closer, the sounds of beast roars gradually grew louder as well. Very soon, the two of them arrived at the location of the main entrance of the hall. The 30-meter-long Emperor Armament floated 10 meters in the air as it constantly rammed against the door, while several 5th and 6th Heavenly Layer Class 8 magical beasts roared furiously. They constantly bit at the Emperor Armament with their large jaws, but the weapon avoided them with agility. They could not touch the Emperor Armament at all. Meanwhile, all the beasts were covered in horrifying wounds. Their blood had already dyed them all red. They had clearly been injured by the Emperor Armament. Emperor Armament, I've finally found you, Jian Shen ravished with joy. Chaotic force circulated and filled every inch of him, pushing the toughness of his body to its absolute limit. Afterward, he used the illusory flash, shooting toward the Emperor Armament in the form of a blur. The Emperor Armament had clearly noticed Jian Shen as well. It stopped its attacks at the door and turned around, before turning into a blurry figure. It actually began to flee into the distance with lightning speed, before directly piercing the barrier around the hall and disappearing into it. Where do you think you're going? Jian Shen roared. He immediately chased behind it as a blur, traversing several kilometers in the blink of an eye. He arrived at the gap in the barrier that the Emperor Armament had passed through and widened it just as it was about to close. He then threw himself through the gap as well. Jian Shen chased the Emperor Armament from the 1st floor to the 9th. As soon as it made it up there, it dodged Jian Shen's claws before charging back to the 1st floor, breaking through the barrier and returning outside the hall. Jian Shen shot out from the gap created by the Emperor Armament with lightning speed. A golden light fell from the center of his eyebrows and landed in his hand. He had pulled out the Saint artifact. Jian Shen tossed the Saint artifact into the air. Artifact spirit, hide here. Once the Emperor Armament flies over, suck it into the artifact space immediately. Jian Shen paid no more attention to the Saint artifact, continuing his pursuit of the Emperor Armament. The Saint artifact hovered in the air as its golden light gradually disappeared. It shrank rapidly, before descending onto the ground as a thumb-sized tower. It used a corpse to hide itself. Jian Shen and the Emperor Armament rampaged everywhere in the Divine Hall. Due to the illusory flash, a long trail of blurs followed Jian Shen everywhere. The other Class 8 beasts all tailed behind as they were unwilling to let the two go. The beasts constantly roared out angrily. When the Emperor Armament flew toward the hall once again, the Saint artifact finally struck out. It turned into a 10-meter-tall tower in the blink of an eye, radiating with a blinding light. Following it, a door suddenly opened along the path of the Emperor Armament, attempting to get the Emperor Armament to enter by itself. However, things did not unfold as planned. At the most crucial moment, the Emperor Armament actually forced itself to come to a screeching stop. It did not dive into the artifact space. Clearly, it still remembered what had happened several years ago. But with this delay, Jian Shen finally caught up to it. His hand was coated in a thick layer of chaotic force as he directly grabbed the thick hilt of the Emperor Armament. The Emperor Armament began to tremble violently as it resonated clearly. A powerful layer of sword chi shot out and enveloped Jian Shen, constantly striking him. Jian Shen's clothes were turned to shreds at that very moment. White marks appeared all over him due to the sword chi from the Emperor Armament. The third layer of the chaotic body allowed Jian Shen to withstand attacks from Saint Kings of the third heavenly layer. Although the Emperor Armament was powerful, it struggled to injure Jian Shen as it was not under anyone's control. Jianchen roared out and chaotic force flowed unceasingly into the Emperor Armament. With the injection of chaotic force, the Emperor Armament gradually became suppressed and its sword Qi weakened rapidly, before completely disappearing. The light on the weapon itself had become duller and duller, slowly replaced by a dark light filled with the aura of destruction. The Emperor Armament was completely calm now. It was now completely under Jianchen's control. At the same time, Jianchen could feel the existence of a soul within the Emperor Armament. It was extremely weak, as if it was currently in a slumber. Looks like it's mostly due to this soul that the Emperor Armament possesses this level of intelligence. It should be left behind by its original owner. Jianchen suddenly reached an understanding, and he also realized why the Emperor Armament had behaved like before. It was all due to the instincts of the soul, an instinct to avoid danger. Its actions had not been committed on purpose. Shrink! Jianchen called out. The Emperor Armament quickly began to shrink, turning into a 1.3-meter-long sword the width of 2 fingers. It radiated with an exceptionally powerful aura. Jianchen, you've finally obtained the Emperor Armament, Nubis said joyfully as he ran over. Their chances of breaking through the entrance to the center of the Divine Hall were even greater with the Emperor Armament now. Jianchen's face was also full of joy. With a wave of his hand, a terrifying sword Qi shot out immediately toward the barrier. The sword Qi and the barrier collided and a huge hole was soundlessly formed. Afterward, the sword Qi continued onward with no reduction in force. Boom! The entire hall trembled violently. It was not just the hall, even the entire Divine Hall was greatly affected, swaying gently. This Emperor Armament is innately effective against barriers, so the barrier was weakened greatly before the sword Qi. Jianchen ravished in joy and surprise as he watched everything unfold. My god Jianchen, that strike is at least of the 6th heavenly layer or even the 7th heavenly layer. Nubis was filled with shock. Chapter 948, Fighting the Divine Hall. Jianchen struggled to hide the excitement in his heart as he stared at the trembling hall. He knew extremely well that his attack while wielding the Emperor Armament was at least of the 6th or even the 7th heavenly layer of Saint King. Moreover, this was just a casual strike from him. If he used everything he had, it would be much more powerful. Roar! Several huge vicious beasts charged toward the two of them threateningly. Jianchen grasped his Emperor Armament as he glanced back at the beasts. He said, we better go and stop Thysnich. We can't waste too much time here. You're right. We can't keep wasting time. Maybe just an extra hour will give Thysnich enough time to gain full control over the Divine Hall, said Nubis with a gruff voice. Jianchen and Nubis left together, continuing into the hall. They arrived on the 9th floor very quickly once again. The entry on the ceiling remained the same as before, it had not changed in the past few years. It seemed to have completely fused with the ceiling, making it very hard to discover it with the naked eye. Jianchen and Nubis arrived directly below the entry as they stared up grimly. The Emperor Armament in Jianchen's hand erupted with black light once again as chaotic force surged into the Emperor Armament. He was currently charging up his most powerful attack. Immediately, a tremendous pressure filled the entire hall and in that instant, air itself seemed to freeze. The space around Jianchen began to distort, turning him into a blur. If this were to happen on the Tianyuan continent, the space would have probably collapsed long ago, unable to endure the vast pressure. A dense layer of golden light emerged from Jianchen like some burning flames. Tremendous ripples of energy radiated from Nubis as well, causing the surrounding space to tremble gently. At that moment, Nubis used every inch of his 2nd heavenly layer strength. As a beast of antiquity, his attack had completely exceeded his cultivation level. It was no weaker than a strike from a 3rd heavenly layer Saint King. Do it! Jianchen immediately called out when he saw that Nubis had finished charging up. He swung the Emperor Armament toward the ceiling with lightning speed. Immediately, a humongous sword Qi shot toward the entrance in the form of a dark streak of light that radiated with an aura of destruction. It struck the ceiling brutally. At the same time, Nubis struck out as well. He swung his hands abruptly and energy ripples began to surge out from his body. It turned into the projection of a long golden snake, striking the ceiling. Boom! Jianshen and Nubis struck the entrance with their most powerful attacks at the same time, causing a deafening boom to erupt immediately. Wild energy rampaged in all directions, causing the hall to rumble each time they struck the walls. The entire hall shook violently as if it was amidst a great earthquake. On the 9th floor, the fragments of decor left behind countless years ago turned into powder. After a very long time, an extremely small crack appeared on the entrance after all the rampaging energy calmed down. Although the strike had failed to break through the entrance, Nubis and Jianshen both smiled. Fantastic. The entrance to the center of the hall really isn't as strong as the Divine Hall itself. It doesn't need Saint Emperors to break it. We can definitely get through it if we strike it a few more times. Jianshen's voice was filled with some joy. Let's continue, said Nubis. Energy began to surge out from his body once again. Ha 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 ha, pity, it's such a pity that you two moved too late. At that very moment, a loud laughter filled the hall. It was impossible to discern its origins. It's Thysnich. Has he already gained control over the Divine Hall? Jianshen's expression changed and he immediately became grim. Nubis also revealed a terrible expression. It's not good now. If Thysnich has control over the Divine Hall, he can use it to deal with us. The Divine Hall is as strong as a Saint Emperor. Even with our great improvements, we can't go toe-to-toe with Saint Emperors. Ha 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 ha, never did I think that you would still be alive, ruler of the Turtle Clan. Your body wasn't possessed by the Octoterra Emperor. But this is perfect. You're easier to deal with than the Octoterra Emperor. Thysnich's voice rang out everywhere again and the ceiling suddenly opened up. Thysnich descended slowly as a visible energy coiled around him. This energy possessed a tremendous aura. It was so powerful that even Jianshen's expression changed. This was the power of the Divine Hall, something that stood on equal grounds with Saint Emperors. Jianshen and Nubis shot backward, pulling far away from Thysnich. They could see the layer of the Divine Hall's power around Thysnich that protected him. It definitely would not be as easy to harm him with its protection. Thysnich hovered 3 meters above the ground. His face was filled with arrogance, while his gaze toward the two of them was filled with scorn. Currently, he was like a lofty monarch, able to look down on everything. Ruler of the Turtle Clan, Nubis. I didn't originally plan on killing the two of you. But since you have no idea what's best for you and wanted to break through the entrance to the center of the hall, it can no longer be my fault, sneered Thysnich. His eyes were filled with killing intent and with a wave of his hand, a strand of power from the Divine Hall immediately condensed. It shot toward the two of them with lightning speed as it rippled with great energy. With a flash, Nubis dodged the attack, while Jianshen directly swung his Emperor Armament at it. He struck out as hard as he could. Jianshen wanted to forcefully repel it and see just how great the power was. The Emperor Armament collided with the Divine Hall's power with a loud boom. Jianshen immediately felt an extremely great power smash into his body viciously, throwing him backward. He directly flew into a wall of the 9th floor, causing the entire hall to shake gently. Jianshen produced a deep grunt. From the attack, all his organs had been shaken up. However, a large portion of the power had been nullified through his attack. Along with the fact that his chaotic body was tough, the blow did not cause him any great injury. How is this possible? I didn't even injure you. Thysnich stared at Jianshen with his eyes wide open as disbelief flooded his face. Jianshen stood up steadily and sneered, and I had wondered just how powerful you would become after you controlled the power of the Divine Hall, but it looks like it's not that great. In my opinion, you haven't fully gained control over the hall. Even though you can use some of the Divine Hall's power right now, this is why your attacks are still weak. It's nowhere near the level of Saint Emperors, only at the 8th or 9th heavenly layer of Saint King at most. Chapter 949, Thysnich's Death. Thysnich's expression changed slightly when he heard Jian Chen's words, but a cold light soon flashed across his eyes. He laughed loudly and said, "Ruler of the Turtle Clan, you sure do have some knowledge. You are able to see through my secret and can tell that I have yet to completely control the Divine Hall. You're right, it's just as you've said. I still haven't gained full control over the Divine Hall and can only use a portion of its power. But it's still not something you can contend with, even if it's far from the power of an emperor. I may not have injured you earlier with that strand of power, but it was still enough for you to use everything you had to block it. I wonder how many more attacks at that level you can resist." Thysnich suddenly pushed out with one hand when he finished what his words. Immediately, several strands of power shot toward Jian Chen with a devastating aura. Jian Chen became grim. Blocking the attack from before was his absolute limit, yet now he was faced with several of them. It was impossible for him to match up with all of them, even if he had the Emperor Armament. Currently, Jian Chen could only display strength at the peak of the 7th layer with the Emperor Armament. Meanwhile, the Divine Hall's power was at least at the 8th or 9th heavenly layer. It was beyond what he could face up against. With a thought, a golden streak of light immediately shot out from the center of his eyebrows, forming a golden tower in front of him in the blink of an eye. It enlarged quickly, instantly reaching as high as 30 meters as it stood before Jian Chen. Boom! The Divine Hall's power struck the golden tower and erupted with a deafening sound. Wild residual energy rampaged in the hall, forming a storm of energy. The golden tower did not even tremble when it took on all the attacks. The power of 9th heavenly layer Saint Kings could not even leave a scratch on it. Jian Chen hid behind the Saint artifact as he struck out heavily with his left hand. His attack immediately shot off toward Thysnich after Jian Chen's heavy palm strike. Jian Chen wielded his Emperor Armament in his right hand. He stuck close to the Saint artifact, rapidly approaching Thysnich while the artifact covered him. I'd like to see just how many times your golden tower can resist my attacks," sneered Thysnich. Thysnich did not even fear 16th star Sea Soul warriors within the hall now that he controlled a portion of the Divine Hall's power. He completely looked down on Jian Chen thanks to his overconfidence. Thysnich swung out with both his arms. Suddenly, the energy of the Divine Hall transformed into finger-sized sword chi as it constantly shot toward the Saint artifact. However, each strand of sword chi was no weaker than before. Violent sounds rang out with no signs of stopping as the power of the Divine Hall struck the Saint artifact constantly. A terrifying force formed from the wild ripples of energy stopped the advance of the Saint artifact, preventing it from getting closer than 30 meters. Suddenly, a powerful golden light began to radiate from the Saint artifact. It enveloped a radius of 100 meters, and the entire area had basically become the domain of the Saint artifact. In that area, the Saint artifact could suck anyone in or let them out, given that they did not resist. In the next moment, a wild energy of destruction suddenly appeared behind Thysnich. The Emperor Armament stabbed out with an unbelievable speed toward him as it shone with dazzling dark light. Although Thysnich controlled a portion of the Divine Hall's power, he was still a 9th heavenly layer Saint ruler. He completely failed to react to the sudden strike that Jian Chen had delivered from behind. The Emperor Armament stabbed toward Thysnich's back, but it was blocked by the Divine Hall's energy around him. The energy immediately began to churn wildly after taking on the attack, but it stabilized very quickly. Jian Chen's arms suddenly began to jolt, striking out with speed. The Emperor Armament had completely become a flurry of blurs in his hand. It consecutively struck the layer of energy with speed that made it difficult to discern the weapon itself with the naked eye. Jian Chen's speed was unbelievable. In just a mere moment, he had stabbed out several dozen times. Each strike possessed the strength of a peak 7th heavenly layer Saint King, and it all landed in the exact same spot. Although the power protecting Thysnich was very strong, it was unable to withstand these torrential attacks. A small hole formed in the end. Jian Chen's eyes lit up as killing intent radiated from him without the slightest concealment. He immediately drove the Emperor Armament into the gap, breaking through the defense and mercilessly piercing Thysnich. Spurt. The Emperor Armament emerged from Thysnich's chest as bright red blood dripped down the tip of the sword. Meanwhile, chaotic force churned within the weapon, entering Thysnich's body in a rampage. Arg! Thysnich could not help but cry out miserably. The chaotic force that had entered his body was extremely powerful, so powerful that only a third-layer chaotic body could withstand it. How could his fragile body endure its devastation? Wherever the chaotic force passed by, the flesh and blood of Thysnich's would explode with muffled sputters. Blood rained everywhere. Ruler of the Turtle Clan, even if I have to die here, I'm going to pull you down with me. Thysnich produced a chilling shriek and a sliver of determination appeared in his eyes. He wanted to use the sliver of Emperor's power within him to kill them both. Jian Shen understood what Thysnich wanted to do. His eyes immediately grew cold and he slapped his left hand against Thysnich's head with lightning speed. The powerful palm strike directly passed through his head and turned it into pieces, wiping out his soul. Without Thysnich's soul, the power of the Divine Hall had lost master as well. It began to slowly disperse. Swish! The 30-meter-tall saint artifact returned to its original size, shooting back into Jian Chen's forehead as a golden streak of light. It had returned to Jian Chen's sea of consciousness. Nubis walked over afar. He looked at Thysnich who was dead on the ground. He could not help but sigh deeply. This bastard is finally dead. The Divine Hall's power he controlled before allowed him to produce 8th Heavenly Layer Saint King attacks. It brought me a great fright, but he still wasn't your opponent in the end. Nubi's frantic heart finally calmed down. Jian Shen secretly produced a sigh of relief as he stared at Thysnich's corpse with mixed emotions. He placed the Emperor Armament back into his space ring, before slowly squatting down to Thysnich's corpse. He put his hand on top of the corpse's chest. An extremely powerful ripple of energy immediately emerged from the chest. Following it closely, a thumb-sized ball of pure power was drawn from Thysnich by Jian Shen. It was an emperor's power. Jian Shen carefully placed the power into his hand. He was extremely stern. He knew very well that this was the true power of a saint emperor, far greater than the power of the Divine Hall that Thysnich had controlled. Jian Shen, do you plan on keeping the power with you? Nubi stared at Jian Shen in shock. Jian Shen nodded slightly. Correct, that's what I intend to do. The power is extremely great, even though there's only enough for a single strike, it's enough to heavily injure a 9th Heavenly Layer Saint King. If it's used well, it can even kill a 9th Heavenly Layer Saint King. Jian Shen took away the Emperor's power. However, he did not dare to deposit it in his own body. Instead, he placed it in the artifact space to get the artifact spirit to guard against it. With that, the artifact spirit could block the Emperor's power even if it suddenly erupted. Although I can refine the Emperor's power into chaotic force, it'll only be an extremely limited amount and won't be of much help at all. Meanwhile, I can even threaten 9th Heavenly Layer Saint Kings if I use it against enemies. That's the way to get all the value from it, thought Jian Shen. Jian Shen, you've done it indeed. You have not made me disappointed. Suddenly, a gentle and pleasant voice rang out. The sudden voice stunned both Jian Shen and Nubis as they raised their heads immediately. Before them, a blurry image appeared. It was a female with an obscured face. Sea Goddess, it's actually you. Jian Shen and Nubis were both surprised as soon as they noticed who the woman was. Jian Shen, you've obtained the Emperor Armament left behind by the death of a human emperor, and this Divine Hall has fallen into your hands as well. Are you satisfied with what you have obtained from this Octaterra Divine Hall? The Sea Goddess voice rang out. It was extremely pleasant, like the music played by some immortal. Your Majesty, since you can enter the Octaterra Divine Hall at will, you must know about the scheme of the Divine Hall, right? Jian Shen asked grimly. Correct. I indeed knew about everything here, including the matters of the Blood Demon Emperor and the Psalmic Emperor. But do not worry, I had told you to come here because I was thinking for you. I had no intentions of harming you, and everything that happened in here can be considered as a type of test for you, said the Sea Goddess. Jian Shen became silent. The goddess of the sea race was one of the 4 supreme champions from the ancient times, an existence that had surpassed Saint Emperor. Her abilities extended far beyond Jian Chen's reckoning. Jian Chen knew that probably everything that happened within the Octaterra Divine Hall was monitored by the sea goddess. Your Majesty, you have helped me so many times. May I ask what you need me to do for you? Jian Chen asked. The sea goddess went silent for a while before finally speaking out. Jian Chen, I want you to go to a place to retrieve some items for me. This is the reason why I have helped you. May I ask what exactly are the items? With your identity as the goddess of the sea race, are there no other experts that are able to assist you? Jian Chen was curious. No. Probably only you can enter that place. It will only bring death to other people who enter, even if they are Saint Emperors, said the sea goddess. Chapter 950. Owner of the Divine Hall Jian Chen immediately felt shocked when he heard the sea goddess words. However, he felt even more curious about the existence of such a place. Sea goddess, may I ask exactly where this place is? And how dangerous is it inside that it can even kill Saint Emperors? I'm still weak, nowhere near the level of Saint Emperors, so it'll probably just be even more dangerous for me if I enter, said Jian Chen. The sea goddess shook her head. Very few people in the sea realm know of this place, but the level of weirdness and danger inside is incomparable to any other place within the sea realm. This is because the mysteries of the world do not exist in there. The place does not possess any flow of the energy of the world. A mysterious power exists inside, which suppresses all the abilities and power within people. As a result, Saint Kings or even Saint Emperors will lose all their abilities once they enter that place and become as weak as an ordinary human. They won't be able to face up against the dangers in there at all. In the past years, not only did I search through the entire sea realm time after time to find someone suitable, I even enveloped the Tian Yuan continent, the Beast God continent and the continent of the 100 races with my soul. Unfortunately, I failed to find a single person in over 100,000 years until you appeared. The sea goddess' voice was strewn with emotions, filled with melancholy and a dash of excitement. Jian Chen, you're the only person I've discovered in all these years who can enter that place and come out alive. This is because you cultivate along a different path. You do not comprehend the mysteries of the world, and the power you use is completely different from any of the powers known on the Tian Yuan continent. It's a mysterious power that even I have never even heard of, much less seen. I can feel the strength and terror of your power, and it definitely won't be suppressed in there. Your body is extremely tough as well, to the point where attacks below the 3rd heavenly layer of Saint King would struggle to harm you. Even if your powers become suppressed in there, your body is tough enough to protect you. This is why only you can return from that place alive, Jian Chen. Please help me with this. Jian Chen understood everything when he heard the sea goddess' explanation. No wonder the goddess of the sea race would come looking for him randomly to help her. As it turned out, it was because he cultivated the chaotic body and was different from other people. Your Majesty, may I ask exactly what are the items that you want me to retrieve from that place? And is my current strength enough to fulfill this request right now? Jian Chen asked with clasped hands. I will tell you when the time comes exactly what you need to retrieve. Your current strength is already more than enough to enter there. The biggest threat in that place is the fact that even Saint Emperors are suppressed, the mysterious power that turns Saint Emperors into ordinary people. If it weren't for it, any 16th star expert would be enough to enter the place without any worry. The energy in the sea realm experiences a worldly ebb once every 10,000 years. That place will only appear when the worldly ebb occurs. It will be the time for you to enter it when this next ebb happens. It has been close to 10,000 years since the last one, so the next ebb shouldn't be very far away. If I estimate by looking at previous occurrences, it should occur within 50 years at most, said the sea goddess. Jian Chen paused for a while before continuing, Sea goddess, I am a person who takes vengeance and returns favors. Since you have helped me so much, I will definitely do everything I can to obtain the items you need. Very well, Jian Chen. Once you obtain the items, I will thank you. You will be an eternal friend of my sea race. The sea goddess voice was filled with unconcealable joy. Jian-Shen, this Octaterra divine hall was constructed by the Blood Demon Emperor and then modified by the Psalmic Emperor and the Octaterra Emperor. It's become extremely powerful. If you hide in it, anything below Saint Emperor will struggle to harm you. You should go refine the divine hall now. Yes, Your Majesty. Jian-Shen was filled with unconcealable joy. With the divine hall by his side, he no longer feared the power of the 10 protector clans. The projection of the sea goddess slowly hovered its way to the Empyrean demon orb. She pointed at it gently. It immediately drifted toward Jian-Shen as it shone with a faint red light. She then said, "Take this orb with you. Remember, you must find a new host for it within 10 years. A new host within 10 years? Why?" Jian-Shen asked in confusion. The sea goddess shook her head gently. "I don't know either. This was what the winged tiger god told me all those years ago, and this orb originated from him as well." What? The Empyrean demon orb came from the winged tiger god? Jian-Shen was absolutely astounded. Correct. This orb is indeed from the winged tiger god. Back then, he communicated with me through a mental message and got me to look after the orb for him. Once the host of the orb passes away, a new host needs to be found within 10 years. He said the orb could not exist by itself for more than 10 years, or he would come and flatten my sea realm. The sea goddess voice became slightly forced toward the end. Jian-Shen could not help but secretly gasp when he heard about how the winged tiger god would flatten the sea realm. He then asked out of curiosity, didn't the winged tiger god disappear long ago? What use would this threat be now? The winged tiger god has indeed disappeared for many years now, but I was in debt to his guidance back then. The reason why I can still assist you today is all because of him. This is why I have always been paying some attention to the matter of the orb throughout the years, as a way to return the winged tiger god's kindness, said the sea goddess. Jian-Shen felt even more astounded. Only now did he finally learn why the sea goddess managed to survive for so long. It was all because of the winged tiger god. What filled him with even more disbelief was that the sea goddess was indebted to the winged tiger god for his guidance. After all, the sea goddess, winged tiger god, Mo Tianyun, and Ergens were figures who possessed equal fame in the ancient times. They were the 4 supreme champions of the 4 races. Looks like even though all 4 supreme champions surpassed Saint Emperor in the ancient times, they didn't stand on the same level, Jian-Shen thought. Meanwhile, newbies who listened behind had already become stunned. It was a huge psychological blow to newbies when he heard what the sea goddess had said. No one on the Tianyuan continent knew about these secrets, and no one would have believed it if it did not come out of the sea goddess' mouth. Jian-Shen slowly extended his hand toward the orb and grabbed it. He asked, "Your Majesty, may I ask if there are any dangers to the host once the Empyrean demon orb enters their body? I've observed it for several 100,000 years. In all those years, the orb has traveled through all 4 continents, gaining several hundred hosts. However, there was nothing, where even the cultivation method and power used was the same. It should not be able to harm its host," said the sea goddess. Jian-Shen hesitated slightly before finally placing the orb into his space ring. He began to consider his options with the Empyrean demon orb. Jian-Shen, remember, the orb cannot exist by itself for more than 10 years. It has already stayed in the Octaterra Divine Hall by itself for 5 years, so you need to find a new host for it in the remaining 5 years. The voice of the sea goddess rang out as her figure gradually faded. When she finished speaking, she had disappeared entirely, having departed from the divine hall. Jian-Shen dismissed his thoughts quickly after the sea goddess left. He looked toward the entrance in the ceiling and flew into the center of the divine hall directly. He planned to refine the divine hall. The speed at which Jian-Shen refined the hall was miraculous. Thysnich failed to refine the whole thing even after 5 years, which was why he could only use a small portion of the divine hall's power. On the other hand, Jian-Shen gained full control in just 3 months. Jian-Shen's soul had fused with the divine hall after he gained full control. It seemed to become a part of him. Not only could he clearly feel everything inside, He could even control all of its power. Jianshen could control the power that rivaled Saint Emperors at will in the Divine Hall. The only problem was that it could not be used against people outside the Divine Hall. Jianshen could clearly feel several Class 8 magical beasts present in the hall. Moreover, there were 2 extremely huge skeletons in a hidden area of the Divine Hall. They were skeletons of sea race members, an extremely pure and vast energy rippled from them. Skeletons of Saint Emperors. Jianshen immediately recognized the owners of the 2 skeletons. They were, without a doubt, the Samic Emperor and the Octaterra Emperor. This filled Jianshen's heart with joy. Jianshen left the center of the Divine Hall, returning to the 9th floor of the hall. Nubis had spent the entire 3 months waiting outside, currently cultivating quietly as he sat to one side. He did not sense Jianshen's appearance. Jianshen looked at Nubis and smiled. Nubis, it's time we left. Nubis slowly opened his eyes and revealed a sliver of excitement. Jianshen, you've successfully gained control over the hall? Jianshen smiled before opening his hand. Space rings immediately flew over from the entrance of the hall, all gathering above his palm. There were over 100 of them. The space rings belonged to the people who had died within the Divine Hall and had all been collected by Jianshen through the Divine Hall's power. Nubis immediately understood that Jianshen had refined the Divine Hall completely when he saw this demonstration. He immediately rejoiced, fantastic. With this Divine Hall protecting us, we have no need to fear even if we come across Hall Elders. My God, wasn't it horrible when we were chased around by those experts from the Serpent God Hall and the Heaven Spirit Hall? We can't let them off now that we're strong enough. Let's go Jianshen, let's go kill our way to the Serpent God Hall and the Heaven Spirit Hall for revenge. Chapter 951. 5 years. A cold light flickered through Jianshen's eyes as soon as he heard what Nubis said. He clenched his fists tightly as he gnashed his teeth. I will definitely go to the Serpent God Hall and the Heaven Spirit Hall. And that divine general who took my golden silk mail, I will let them know that my things can't just be taken that easily. Jianshen, do you want to directly kill our way up to the Serpent God Hall as soon as we get out? Nubis had already begun rubbing his fists. Jianshen pondered for a while, before finally shaking his head. There's no hurry. We should return to the Turtle Clan first. The 5 years are up with the Taihong clan, so we can't delay it any further. Otherwise, I fear that things may happen to the Turtle Clan. I may not actually be the ruler of the clan, but their Grand Elder died to save me. His final wish was to revitalize the Turtle Clan, so I can't let him down. I'll go immediately to the Serpent God Hall for my things as soon as I deal with the Taihong clan. I'll end this once and for all. Jianshen deposited all the space rings in his hand into the Saint artifact, before leaving the Divine Hall with Nubis. He did not have the time to sort through the items inside the rings. He even left the 2 Saint Emperor corpses where they were in the Divine Hall. Outside, the experts from the 3 halls remained motionless. They had waited for 5 years already, but no one chose to leave during this time. They all wanted to see the final victor emerge from the Octaterra Divine Hall. They also wanted to see what treasures their own clansmen had obtained from the Divine Hall. In these 5 years, the Grand Divine Hall hovered in place. No one could see what had happened inside. Even the great disturbances from the Emperor Armament ramming into the hall and the battle with Thysnich toward the end did not carry through to the outside. It has been 5 years since they've entered, yet no one has come it. Something seems off. A similar opinion would emerge from the crowd from time to time. 160 people had entered at the very beginning, yet no one had emerged during all this time. Many people felt suspicious over this, because there would definitely be people who would emerge from time to time if it was an ordinary treasure hunt. I wonder what the situation is like inside. Is Jianshen still fine? Has he obtained full control over the Divine Hall? He's someone that the Hall Master treats with importance, so hopefully no accidents happen to him, thought Hall Elder Hong. Another Hall Elder of the Sea Goddess Hall stood beside him. She was a woman with a blurred appearance and a staff in hand. She seemed very similar to Atlantis, the strongest below Saint Emperor, but she was a different person. She floated silently in midair. Her eyes contained no emotions as she stared at the divine hall. She said nothing. She had remained quiet like this for all 5 years. Look, someone's come out. A cry of surprise rang out at this very moment. With the voice, everyone's eyes lit up and they immediately cast their attention toward the people exiting. 2 figures floated high up near the Octaterra Divine Hall. Their sudden appearances did not produce any signs of movement. Even the 6 hall elders present had no idea when they had appeared. Jian Chen. It's actually Jian Chen. He has come out from the Divine Hall, murmured Elder Hong as he noticed the 2 of them at first glance. It was Jian Chen and Nubis who had appeared silently above the Divine Hall. The eyes of the woman beside Elder Hong narrowed and she finally spoke. No, their strength has increased drastically. They're both 15th star experts now. The woman's voice possessed some surprise. Elder Hong was surprised when he heard that. You're right, their presences have indeed become much stronger. They're both of the 15th star now. They must have gained a lot from this journey into the Divine Hall. I just wonder where the others are. Jian Chen and Nubis gazed calmly at the experts from the 3 factions, before flying toward the side of the Sea Goddess Hall. Why have only the 2 of you returned? What about the others? What happened in the Octaterra Divine Hall? Why did it take 5 years, and why have only 2 people have emerged? Where are the others, who obtained the legacy of the Octaterra Emperor in the end? The people from the Serpent God Hall and the Heaven Spirit Hall constantly asked questions, wanting to know what had happened inside the Divine Hall and the predicaments of their people. The 2 of them paid no attention to the questions and arrived directly before Elder Hong. We greet Elder Hong. Elder Hong carried a faint smile as he constantly observed Jian Chen. He said, I can already tell that the 2 of you have probably benefited greatly from the Octaterra Divine Hall. Your strength has actually increased by this much. Jian Chen, have you obtained the legacy of the Octaterra Emperor? Although Elder Hong spoke very softly and everyone else was quite far away, they all heard it clearly. Immediately, everyone's attention gathered on the 2 of them, including the hall elders from the other halls. Jian Chen shook his head gently. Elder Hong, I'll hide nothing. I have not obtained the legacy. The Octaterra Divine Hall was actually all a trick, all a scheme. Elder Hong's face tensed up. Explain. After a slight pause, Jian Chen continued, does Elder Hong know about the Blood Demon Emperor? The Blood Demon Emperor. You mean that Blood Demon Emperor that fought the 3 hall masters several tens of thousands of years ago? Elder Hong was shocked. He stared at Jian Chen fixedly, already understanding some things. Correct, that Blood Demon Emperor. The Octaterra Divine Hall originally belonged to him and it was called the Blood Demon Divine Hall. When he fought the 3 hall masters in outer space, his soul was not wiped up. It had fled into the Blood Demon Divine Hall and hid well. Afterward, he devoured the souls of both the Samic Emperor and the Octaterra Emperor who took the Divine Hall for themselves. The Blood Demon Emperor changed the Divine Hall into a trap. He then spread the word to draw everyone in, using the traps he had set up to kill them all and revive his weakened soul through their blood. He wanted to take our bodies and come back. As a result, only the 2 of us are still alive from the initial 160, explained Jian Chen. How is that possible? How is the Octaterra Divine Hall a trap of the Blood Demon Emperor? The Octaterra Emperor and the Samic Emperor were both Saint Emperors, so how did they get devoured by the Blood Demon Emperor? Emperors only have a lifespan of 10,000 years, while the Blood Demon Emperor was an emperor from several tens of thousands of years ago. How could he survive for so long as just a soul? Don't listen to him, everyone. These are all lies he has spun. The people immediately fell into a great uproar after they heard what Jian Chen had said. In that moment, everyone struggled to remain calm, including the 6 hall elders. The Octaterra Divine Hall was actually a scheme by the Blood Demon Emperor, a scheme for revival. Everyone struggled to believe this. This was because the Blood Demon Emperor was infamously vicious several tens of thousands of years ago, yet emperors could only live for 10,000 years. The Blood Demon Emperor had not died even after so much time. This was undoubtedly equivalent to a great bomb dropped on them. Ruler of the Turtle Clan, why has everyone else died except for you two if you say it's a scheme for the Blood Demon Emperor's revival? Perhaps you possess the power to be victorious over the Blood Demon Emperor's soul? Asked an old man. His voice was powerful. He was a Hall Elder of the Heaven's Spirit Hall. Correct. The soul of the Blood Demon Emperor was indeed felled by my hands. Jian Shen hid nothing and spoke nonchalantly. Where's the ruler of our Serpent God Hall, Thysnich? Asked a Hall Elder of the Serpent God Hall. His complexion was very ugly. Thysnich also died inside. Jian Shen stared coldly at the Hall Elder. He had no good impressions of the Serpent God Hall. Impossible. That is impossible. Thysnich possesses an emperor's power, which was deposited into him by the Hall Master. How could he have fallen in the Divine Hall? You're lying, the Hall Elder yelled out. His face was extremely sunken and he seemed terrifying. I've already told you the truth. Whether you believe it or not is up to you. Jian Shen glanced at the people from the two halls. He felt no fear. Afterward, the huge divine hall quickly began to shrink at a visible rate with a thought of his. It reached the size of a palm before flying into Jian Shen's hand. It had become a tiny divine hall. How is that possible? He has gained control over the Octaterra Divine Hall. The Divine Hall has actually fallen into his hands. It's now in his control. Jian Shen's action caused another series of cries. In that moment, everyone tossed the fates of their people to the back of their mind, all staring at the Divine Hall in Jian Shen's hand with illuminated eyes. They were filled with unconcealable greed, and even the various experts of the Serpent God Hall were the same. Good, good, good. Jian Shen, you really have gained control over the Divine Hall, Elder Hong chuckled. His eyes were filled with admiration. Jian Shen sneered when he noticed everyone's gazes. He lifted up the Divine Hall in his hand and called out, "Come get it if you want the Divine Hall." You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.